Yeah, okay. Let me go ahead and begin. So, hey there, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Loading Screen. This is a podcast that, like me, seems to have commitment issues because, yeah, I just don't do these as often as I should. But anyway, we're back. I'm Phemeto, the gunner guru who hates pretty much everything I touch, including myself. I'm back here with a new co-host, longtime Monster Hunter boomer and community outcast, Brother Virtue, who's
It's
been on the
me.
podcast a few
You
times.
can't
So,
kill me. You
no, you're
can't
still
kill me.
around. They
Still
they, they
here.
certainly tried, but you're still here.
Oh man, do we go into like the rolling punches gag or?
Oh, you can go for that. That's fine. Yeah.
I mean, we got names here, but it only really works if like we're going back and forth. Like I put what was it? Capcom's least favorite speedrunner, Phemeto. How, do,
That's
how
fucking for
is?
true.
I don't
Let's
know.
see that. Sorry, that brings up a great topic. I'll do it a little bit later, but that automatically opened up a topic that I wanted to talk about.
I got the juices flowing. Okay, because
Yeah.
I got like Monster Hunter Community's darling. That could be you.
Fucking
Uh,
no.
we got pre-canceled podcast as a.
That's a good name.
I know. I mean, we're on borrowed time. I put in here jabs. I thought maybe some low blows, but I don't know. Maybe next time. Maybe this will be something that
We can warm up now. The
we
next
really
time we
build
really
up.
shank each other with a knife in the back.
Yeah, and then we'll see how it goes. I think I got like temp immunity, so.
All right, so you want to go ahead and go with your introduction for anyone who's unfamiliar with the everything that is you?
Oh man. It's like I want to be humble, but at the same time, I've been there. I've seen some shit. Vietnam flashbacks. Add that in the background. You know, the star-crossed gaze. Um, Monster Hunter, dreamer, progenitor to many. That's mostly, I guess, how I would classify myself. Definitely stirred the pot of drama. Um, Looking to get away from it. Maybe add a little bit more. Give something back. I don't know. Is that something that we can do in our old age?
I don't know. I don't
Or
think anyone really cares
do
of
you
what we
wanna?
actually give out. Nobody
That's
wants our
true.
advice, our information. Everything we say is dated and just inappropriate, apparently.
Cancel culture at its worst. Yeah.
I wouldn't even say that it's cancel culture. It's just people these days just have different mindsets, and there's a lot more of them now than us.
It's a generational thing, and I think that's like the point of one of our main points that we want to follow up with the podcast today. Is just kind of like talk about being old and gaming and not necessarily feeling welcome, but maybe also what it is that we like or why we stay, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's something in there. There's something for everyone. They always say that, but I don't believe it. Not always.
All right. So typically, when we do loading screen podcasts, one of the segments and things that we do is drink, because as you can see behind me, I've got like my big old wall of wine over here. I'm a big alcoholic because I mean, that's just, it comes with who I am, I guess.
Oh shit! I'm breaking shit already.
Yeah. So what the fuck was that?
It
So-
is the steel book case to Rise that I'll never open for a multitude of reasons.
It's... So what do you got over there?
I went and picked up some stuff today. I got some Jumai sake because I
Okay.
like sake. I'll probably bust that out in a little bit. I've got a Levisky blonde. I like blondes and
Blonde ales. Okay.
yeah. I'm not too big on the whole snottiness of IPAs and microbrews,
Dude.
but some of the beers are good. I just don't know what they are, and I don't really care what they are.
But,
So
and that's a problem, because we're out here. Well, actually, we're both out here in California, right? You're in California.
no,
right?
I'm in Arizona,
That's right. Same time
but I'm
zone.
from but I'm from California.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm back
Oh.
out here, and yeah, it like IPAs are so
I thought
big.
you were in Texas.
No, never
No?
even set foot in Texas.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Vegas.
Oy.
Yeah, I was born in Vegas. Not everything that happens in Vegas stays in
It
Vegas.
all makes sense now. No, just kidding.
But like California, like is really big into like their craft brew IPAs, and there's a million of them, and everyone has like, dude, it's gonna sound super hypocritical. They do like the wine thing where they do like the sommelier smell and like and tell you about it and stuff. But it's like, dude, it's fucking beer. It's not that complex. But like people take their beer seriously out here, and I like beer. I don't like IPAs, but literally every craft brew out here is an IPA, and they're super snotty, and I can't stand it.
The culture is shitty, but sometimes the beers are good. I don't know how to discern what I want from a beer other than I like blondes, I like lagers, I like ales. Depends
German
on what you're
beer.
eating it with. Yeah. What you're eating it with, I guess.
Hmm. Fair enough. Cool. So that'd be fun. Speaking of my booze, I already brought it up. So I've got wine. I poured a 2014 Zin from Adelaida, which is a winery down in Paso Robles in Southern California, which is my favorite place to get wine. I don't like Napa. Napa's also very snotty and overpriced and just caters to tourist crowds now, and it's not good. Paso's where it's at. So anyway, so that's what we're gonna be drinking during our thing. I always like to bring drinks because it gets people to lighten up a little bit, and it's another little talking piece and stuff. So, cheers to you, sir, as we get into this. Clink.
The camera.
Didn't want to actually hit it. It's like sitting on top of my monitor, just like nothing's holding it there. Like I could tap it, it would just fall off, and we'll never find it again.
I've seen from streams that you have multiple cams, and I myself am experimented with that before. But you've got the one up top,
Hmm.
and then what? You have one on the side for the pets.
Yeah, I've got like my doggo cam, which sits like clamped to the side of my desk, and so that usually points behind me where my dogs usually sit while I stream and whatnot. So, and if
Good.
people want to see that, they can pay points to turn it on. Is that a good one?
Fair enough. I actually like it. Yeah, it's got a. Well, speaking of pretentiousness in California, it's got a little bit of a forward tongue bite, and then it sits in the back, and then it's pretty smooth afterwards with a little bit of, I guess you would say, hoppy flavorness, and on the tail end.
So you never actually had that one before? You just picked one up
Mm-mm.
randomly and be like, I gotta go try it.
Yeah, no, I was like, well, support Ukraine, I guess, not to get political about it, but yeah, I like blondes, I like ales, I like all sorts of alcohol, so I thought I'd try it, and it's pretty good. I'll try it again.
All right, good win, good win. If you ever
Yeah.
need beer recommendations, I got a list.
Yeah, I'm with food, I want to stay with the same things, but with alcohol, I'm willing to kind of venture out and just try something new.
Okay, hold on. So let's talk
Just
about that because we got to talk about ourselves because that's an interesting thing. So, food, you like to have the same stuff. What do you mean by that? Like, you don't venture out and try
uh
different foods and stuff you've never had before?
I do, but at a less frequent rate. So like I feel like growing up I had a very expansive palate due to my family, a whole lot of things there that probably not, save for another podcast, of course. But I got around, got to experience different cuisine. So I feel like I was raised with a lot of options. And then
And you
as an
settled,
adult,
like you figured out
yeah,
what
I
you like.
settled. I kind of found the notes, the tastes, the flavors, the smells that I can identify as like that's good food to me. Where as in I guess now I don't want to say like I'm too scared to venture out of my comfort zone. I just like what I like. So I'm less likely to try new things when it comes to food.
Okay, that's fair. So I'm like literally in the opposite of both of that, which is why I probably think it's so interesting. So I grew up with nothing. Like I was poor as shit. I grew up on like
Oh,
Kraft
don't get me wrong,
macaroni and
I
cheese.
wasn't rich, so
Well, no, I meant like no, like that's not what I was saying. I'm just
right.
saying like I grew up eating the same stuff all the time. It was like cup of noodles, like or top ramen even then. We wasn't even cup of noodles back then, and macaroni and cheese and rice essentially. Like that was my
Those
whole
are
thing.
those are classic staples of one our
I still
generation,
eat
and
all of
then
them today. Like I
and
still
just
do
in
it.
general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like I was trying to point out is like now for me like I cook a lot too now, but I will go and try every little thing I've never had. Every time I go to like a restaurant with my girlfriend or go out with people or whatever, I always
Hmm.
try to get something I've never had before. Maybe I'll hate it, I don't know, but I always want something different. And I don't know if that's because of my upbringing, but I don't exactly know what I like. I like a lot of stuff. Like I will try anything and I'll eat damn near anything. And so I'm still trying to discover what is like what is things like I still like or don't like because there's just so
Hmm.
much, especially out here in California. There's so much weird like ethnic food that I
Well,
just never tried.
I guess. Well, I mean, I'm also from California. I didn't spend a lot of time out there. And Arizona, we kind of like inherit California's new wave, or the cool stuff. We get like a year or two later, so to speak. Like
Hand me downs,
the
secondhand
hand
California.
the hand me downs of culture is what we get. When anytime that you guys pass new laws, we get a influx of people, influx of food, you know, influx of ideas that are bad. So yeah, but I still feel like California is like you got like very heavily distinctive areas of like Chinese food, Chinese cuisine, Chinese culture, Japanese culture. Like your Asian town is much bigger than say mine, which I would say that I live in a Asian dominant area. So a lot of my cuisine choices around here are of that influence.
Gotcha.
Um, I think technically we're closer to the border and we have more Mexican influences as well as far as food cuisine choices. I don't know what is like the dominant of your area. I've got little pockets of like Irish food
I'm in
and
the Bay Area,
like
and
Thai and stuff like that.
most of my stuff around here honestly is a lot of like Indian and Middle Eastern food. A lot of it is
Mhm.
pretty big out here.
How are you with spices?
I love spices. Like
Really?
I I do the dumb white guy thing of every time I go to like a restaurant and they have like a spiciness like meter or whatever, anything. I'm like, give me the hottest thing you got. And a couple of times, like when I went into some Vietnamese places and they're
Mhm.
like, or Thai places, they're like Thai 5 level of spice. I'm like, give me five. And they look at me like, you're white, sir. And I'm like, just give me it.
Your
And
pigment will be destroyed.
yeah, it made me crap my pants because that shit is way too hot for me. And then like I went to like a Houston's hot chicken place where they made me sign a waiver to get their hottest level of sauce because
Really?
yeah, it's like 2.8 million Scoville or something dumb. And I ate about half of like my chicken sandwich that was that, and I hated it because it's one of those things where it's like it's not even like flavorful spicy, it's just
Mhm.
fire capsaicin oil for the sake of being hot, and it was gross. So I ate about half of it and I was done with it. But I love spicy foods. I absolutely do.
Yeah, I think there is a difference in spice as far as spices spice or like oils spice or
Yeah,
you know just based off of like what constitutes that food. So I mean some food's a little bit hotter than others.
right. So I
You
do
ever do
like that.
anything stupid on stream with like peppers?
Is that like an intentional
I'm
jab?
just
Because
asking.
I
No, no,
did.
no, no. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
So like, I
yeah,
like
I did.
as much as we're aware of each other, we're still very much getting to know each other.
True.
So I don't know like your full compendium history of like what you've done, and it's just as much as you don't really know like all the stupid shenanigans I've been up to as far as
Right.
up to this point. So like,
I
I
just
did
thought
like,
of the
well,
there's
I
a
mean
very
like, well,
specific dig, which is why I thought I was like,
no, 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 no.
yeah. I
Let me
think
guess.
during one of like the charity events that I was doing with a couple other people, I was doing a donation incentive for like every $20 raised, I would eat a whole habanero, raw seeds and all, just eat them. And I love habaneros, by the way. So I ate about a
Hmm.
dozen of them on stream. I was just chomping away at these things. So
Must be the Vegas in you.
it is good. Oh,
Oh, that wild
also
card.
another side tangent. I want to go to New Mexico. Never been,
Mhm.
but New Mexico chilies and the New Mexican food down there is apparently outrageous, and I've never had like any of it. But it looks really good. I watch all like Food Network shows and stuff. I'm
So
just like,
so we're
fuck, that
both
looks good.
we're both West Coast people. Have you ever? How far have you been back East Coast?
Mm, I, I don't really go places to be honest. So like, I
No.
think as far east as I've gone, I don't even know if you want to count it, but like I went out to Wisconsin to hang out with Jin for like a week.
Oh, Jen's out in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think he's
That's
in Idaho now. Or I don't know
that's
where
like
he
the
is.
that's like the farthest I've been as far as
Yeah,
like I have family out there, so I have Wisconsinites
but I don't even know if
essentially.
that counts because like we hung out and binged like Rise together and ate like Domino's and garbage for like a week. So like
Well,
we
I mean
did.
I know that's a jump from food to like location, but
but I mean, I didn't experience anything out there. So like, other than that, like I haven't really been anywhere in the U.S. besides Nevada, Washington, and California. Like I'm all West Coast entirely.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I've been out to Germany a couple times, but
See, I've never been out of the country.
I want to say you're not missing much. But the one thing you are missing is the food in Europe is 10 times better than the U.S. Like
Is
everything,
it?
it's so much better. Like so, I like being in Vegas. I've been to like Gordon Ramsay's restaurants. I've been to a lot of like high end places,
Okay.
and just going to like any hole in the wall place in like Belgium or Germany or something kicks the shit out of all the American food I've ever had.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of differences too, just between states. So, like, an example, adult conversation here, boring conversation, is that you guys have a lot of laws on your food restrictions and like what you
Hmm.
can put in food and what you can't put in food and the different levels of chemicals that the chemistry of what that food is made of. Whereas, and I think in Arizona we have less restrictions. So I feel like
Interesting.
sometimes our food is a little less cleanly. Like I'll leave here and I'll go do work in California, and when I'm out there, I feel like food actually tastes a little bit healthier as far as like the, I guess, fast food fare, and then as well as just like pub fare or restaurants that specialize in something. So
Hmm.
when I go out there, I don't want to sound like I'm glamorizing it, but it's almost like it's nice. It's nice to know that my
It's
food's
better.
not being fucked with.
Have you been to In
So
and Out? Because you kind of have to.
yeah, I mean we have them out here.
Oh, you do?
So
Okay.
yeah, like we're I feel like Arizona is the melting pot for food and or people for the most part. So we're not too, I don't know. There's a lot of areas with larger influences, but I feel like California there's more distinctive lines of where those differences are. In Arizona it's less common. So it's just like, oh, there's Irish over here and there's Japanese over there and there's, Indian over here, and it's all taking place within 4 squares of a street.
Right, right.
So it's not like one or the other.
Hmm. So it's interesting that you say that, like, you think California food was better than Arizona, or not necessarily better, different. I think different's a better word, choice of
So
words.
there's certain things. So like I got like a younger brother that lives out in Texas, and when he went out there, he was telling me that he was so sad that he didn't have good Mexican food out there. Apparently, like they don't have legitimate burritos; they have taquitos that they call burritos, and like their taco game is like sad. And there's a bunch of other aspects that he was just telling me, like Mexican food is just like non-existent. It's been like whiteified out there to
I could see
it's,
that.
it's it's been so whitewashed that like at this point it's not really even Mexican food.
Sorry, one
Uh-oh.
second. What do you need? Oh, here you go. That so that's funny because I mean I would expect Texas because Texas is right there on the border, and
Right.
it's
I mean,
just
like any state that borders Mexico should in some way have like a pretty strong, I guess, Mexican cuisine game
yeah, like
as far as food
SoCal's
goes.
popping, man.
Yeah. It's gotten
But
better over the years because I mean, like you have like Mexicali kind of region, LA.
mhm,
I feel like that's sort of flourished up.
for sure. But yeah, so I mean, the point I just wanted to drive home was like, if you like California food, like telling you, European food is
European
so much
better.
better. Yeah, maybe not British. British food's never been like something people talk, high points about.
I
Never
mean,
had
I
British
kind of
food.
I feel like English food, British food is kind of more on the, like a mash or like the bland side of like food ingredients. So maybe maybe better for you as far as lacking preservatives or something like that.
Probably,
But I wouldn't necessarily imagine more flavorful. I feel like you have to get out of there to get something worthwhile.
probably.
Who knows? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe my taste buds are just shit, and I'm like, everyone's like, dude, that's like the worst food on the planet. I'm like, I don't know.
Iffy. What else we got going on here? So we wanted
So
to.
as I wanted to mention, I wanted to do some brief talking points about us because I kind of wanted to reboot this whole podcast thing with
Okay.
hopefully you as a returning co-host, guest, whatever you want to call it. Maybe do a different podcast. Who knows? But I want to give some people as a small insight as to who we are if they're just starting this podcast series up for the first time because it's been a long time. So
So you're saying I can't be vague anymore. I got it.
You can still be vague. You don't want to spoil everything. We got a couple other
Right.
podcasts to do. So,
This is
uh,
true. We have ideas, things
yeah.
in the works,
So we
not
both,
just this format.
yeah. So we both wanted to do this podcast because we both obviously have like a shared love and history of specifically Monster Hunter. We don't want this to be like an exclusively Monster Hunter thing that we talk about. Obviously, we just spent like the past 30 minutes discussing food and beverages for a minute. Tangents happen. But what brought us together really was that, I mean, we're both older Monster Hunter players
Wow.
that
I
I
got
was going to
back
say
pain.
boomery, but I'm like, I don't know, man. It's hard to say what's what these days. But
Yeah, I'm
we're on the outs.
the generation topic is always a point of contention. I think that like it's more evident in the Monster Hunter community than some other games that I've played in community wise. Like it's like once you hit that veteran status or essentially label yourself as one, you're kind of considered like on your way out. Like people are less inclined to want your opinion or care for your opinion, or you're the butt of the joke. So, I mean, without getting into the veteran related remarks, it's the same thing, I guess. Right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't I don't know. So like so what do you constitute yourself as? Like do you see yourself as a millennial or like cuz we're what is it now? Gen Z?
Yeah, I
And
think
then
that's the current. And then, or, yeah,
and then
because
what
we're millennials, right?
yeah, but I don't know. Lately I feel like I'm suffering from that whole Mandela effect where people are like, your parents were millennials. And I'm like, no, not really.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they were baby boomers. Like
So
everyone
wait,
that's like in the
I thought
60s right now.
the baby boomers our grandparents' generation, and then
Well,
so
I think
like
the baby boomers was
Gen Xers,
everybody was
Gen
that was
Xers are our parents. How does that?
yeah, yeah. Baby boomers are everyone that was born after World War II. So that's would be our grandparents, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gen X was their kids, so our parents. And then we're
Millennials is us,
millennials, and then Gen
Gen
Z
Z,
is below
and
us.
then they keep coming up with like new ones that just like pop up
Yeah.
every 5 year increments, like Windows updates.
It's,
They're like Windows update, new generation of kids.
that's
The
how
Windows
social
update,
like the social game works these
new,
days. It's every
new
week there's a new
iPhone,
thing. Yeah.
new Android. It is a whole different thing. It doesn't understand whatever came before it.
Yep. That's pretty
Kinda.
accurate.
Sorry. Sorry.
But
Dead
yeah, so like
AF.
I still yeah, so we are millennials, which it feels weird because I remember like growing up we were called millennials and always like referred to as kids, and like now we're in our 30s and we're like, oh,
Well,
ugh.
I mean, if anything, I don't know. This might be a bit of a reach, and obviously we haven't laid the groundwork of context first, but I feel like we're the ill-forgotten kings and queens or whatever of our generation. Like we're the first generation to grow with the technology, like
Mm-hmm.
integrated in our life. I think we're like the last generation that essentially was absent of technology. So it's like I don't know. I'm not talking about like industrialization of like
Well, no, but you
technology.
see all
We're not
the
like there
kids
for the
these days.
trains and all this shit, but like computers when they actually became relevant, phones when they became relevant,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah,
having instant
everything.
access to everything.
Everything moving
So
from analog to digital. We grew up with it.
yeah, so we came up with it. So in many ways, I feel like there's a certain, I think pride would be the wrong way to go about it, and that obviously I think sows the wrong message. But it's like ownership. Like there's a certain ownership or what would you call that? Agency, identity of technology,
I,
where like
I think affinity is
we're
also a good word.
yeah, like we're responsible for it. Like we're the stewards of we need to see this forward. So I think there's more obligation on our part as far as like when it comes to talking about it or being interested in it or having opinions. And mind you, everybody's got a fucking opinion now, and it's a digital age where information is getting faster and faster, but not necessarily better or more
Advanced.
resolved.
It's definitely
Yeah.
stagnated quite a bit.
Well, so I mean, like if you look at the battle of the ages kind of BS. Like every generation wants to define itself differently from the generation preceding, and that's just humanity. That's just us. Um, so I kind of like, we obviously are not our grandparents, nor are we our parents. We're trying to redefine ourselves into like our parenting or life choices or interests or things of that sort. And yeah, things change a little bit, but they're not really changing a whole lot. And then intermix technology in that. And it's like, I don't know. Like, are you a doom scroller? Do you sit on TikTok at night and just scroll through it?
I don't
No.
use any social media stuff. Like I have like my
What?
Twitter to post stuff, but it's mostly just related to being a content creator.
Hmm.
But outside of that, like I don't have like TikTok, Instagram. I don't use Facebook. I don't think anyone uses Facebook anymore. I don't know if there's any other emerging apps, but I do none of that.
I mean, I have a Facebook, but just to essentially scroll through random fucking videos, and so that my family can see that I haven't used it for like 7 or 8 years. Like, basically, I can't delete it, but I'm not doing anything with it. I guess that's where I'm at.
Right.
I kind of feel the same way about Twitter in these last couple of years. Not just this like the whole X crossover and Elon and everything. It's just more so that like it's unless you're focused on what you're doing with it, it's so hard to have.
Whoa.
Um,
Sorry, my dog's being crazy.
no, you're good. Pitter patter.
Yeah. Sorry, go
Is
ahead.
that wood or is that tile? That's wood, isn't it?
Uh, it's a vinyl, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Linoleum.
No, linoleum's
No.
different. I hate linoleum. Vinyl flooring is fucking sick. I love vinyl.
Okay. Okay. Um, no, but it's like, so you have social media. So do I. I obviously am using mine less than you, and you at least have some interaction on it. So like you have a focus. But I think if you deviate outside of that focus, you realize like how fucked everything is around you. So it's just like kind of depreciates the value of it. At
Hmm.
least that's my take on it as far as what's going on with social media.
Yeah, and like I've said this a couple times, but I think the main point of like Twitter or social media, in my opinion, right now, is to get the news for the things that you are interested in. And if you
Mhm.
venture out anything beyond that, it's just garbage.
Well, even within going back to like the Monster Hunter centric focal point for us is like even if you sit within that and getting news off of that, you're getting so many skewed opinions and just bad takes and people thinking that they're having a bad take, but it's more so just like, hey, look at me moments.
Right. I'm regurgitating the same opinion everyone else has and calling it a bad take.
Yeah, I don't know. Like
Well,
nobody's
but that I
nobody's
think
nobody's
that's
actually discussing it, but
but that's the
I
same. You
mean,
would get that from going anywhere, to be honest. Like you're never
right.
gonna get
I'm
an
not
unbiased news anywhere.
same shit in Destiny, bro. Like I play that game and honestly like at this point I don't know if any of the content creators are actually doing anything good for it or if like it's almost like they're neutral in the sense that they put out just as much negativity as they put out positivity, so it's like a sum zero of nothing where it's like, well, you didn't really help it and I guess you're just there making noise. And I kind of feel that way about Monster Hunter sometimes where it's just like just people putting out just as much negativity as they're trying to impose false positivity. So it's just like, are we getting anywhere? Are we is anybody really discussing anything new and interesting about it?
No, I can see that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, one man's opinion, right?
No. How did we get onto social media? We're talking about being old and
Old
in
and
our 30s.
technology.
Oh yeah, because we grew up with technology, and now ever
Mhm.
since social media, for the most part, it's kind of like I don't know, it's been leveling out as far as our input versus output.
What was your first console?
See, and that's the thing. It's like the first console I grew up with, like I remember us having, or one that I was intelligent enough to understand what I was doing with it.
I was 5 and I had a Nintendo, an NES. So I think that was my first console. As far as
Right.
intelligent to understand, I think that might have been a Sega or even like a Game Gear rather, because I don't even know if I was like fully along for Sega because I was born in '85. When were you born?
Dude, 91. Yeah.
Oh,
You got a few years
you're
on me.
the same age as my I guess my middle sibling.
I was gonna
If I'm
say
not
because you're
if
the
I'm not
same age
counting
as my
like
brother.
yeah.
But that's the thing. So like, I had like an older brother who was, well, my whole family's bunch of nerds. Like my parents are Trekkies and they're big into computers and stuff too. So we always grew up with
Star Wars, man. I never got on board with the Trekkie side, but you
No.
know.
Well, I'm not a Trekkie. My parents are. I couldn't get into it. But like, so my parents always bought like, gaming consoles, and my older brother was into them. And so like when I was a kid, I mean, I was always around. I don't even remember if I was playing them all that much, or if I did, like I was just fucking pushing buttons. I don't even know if I was even playing like
Mhm.
coherently. But like, so I was around with like a regular Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, Dreamcast, all that stuff. But I
Yeah.
think the first thing I recall actually playing, like, and mentally
Right.
was there, was Doom on the PC, because we used to play Serial Land PC, Doom Deathmatch with me and my brother and my
Was
father
that
and
like on
stuff.
a was that like on a Mac too, or was that on something else?
Like some DOS machine, I don't know. All I knew was Doom installed on like 7 floppy disks, and yeah, we somehow got that thing to like
See,
serial connect for like 3 computers, and I
I
remember playing a lot of Doom.
yeah, I grew up console, and it's like I feel like I didn't really get into PC until later, if
But
that
that's
makes sense.
normal,
But
because
I mean, like, I guess the best way to say it is that like I wasn't current with PC. It was one of those things where I was much older and went back and played things that I guess had already been around for a while, and then probably retract my Sega Game Gear. I think the first thing I legitimately remember that was for me and that I was cognizant enough to play and enjoy was a Game Boy, original brick Game Boy, and that would be like Super Mario Land,
dude, 6 golden
Kirby's
coins.
Kirby's Adventure Land, what else? I think maybe a Wario game possibly, and
Mm,
then a Metroid game. I think that those were like the main big ones that I can recall.
yeah, I
And
mean
then
that's
I think I sort of blacked out for a while, like you just that growing up phase. And then I remember like the neighbor had a Super NES, so I played that a little bit. One of my like my best friend at the time had Sega and a PC, so I think that's like when I got introduced to PC. And then that was like Sim City and
mm,
what is it?
Oregon
The
Trail.
yeah, or well, so Oregon Trail for me was a school experience. Like
That's true. A lot of
it
people play
wasn't an
that
at home.
school.
So like there's games that you could categorize on like where they come into your life, and it's like Oregon Trail, Math Blaster, and then like a couple other things. So like it's kind of like you have different groups where it's like this is my home console experience, and this is my friends and their influences, and this is school, and then this would be like arcades. Like I don't know if you had the experience of arcades, like the original
Not
Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter 2,
No, I
Teenage
never
Mutant
really
Ninja
did
Turtles.
much arcade stuff, just because we just didn't have the luxury to go out and do that.
Mhm.
Which sounds odd now that I'm thinking about it. Like my parents always had like consoles and TVs and stuff, but I guess that's where all the money went. Because I was like, we never went out and did
Yeah.
anything.
Well, I mean, like, so, so I mean, like, arcades to me, that was something that I did with my stepdad. He was like basically my father, and essentially we go to like the nickel and dime arcades, which was a rarity among arcades because we had proper arcades and those were like quarter arcades.
Right.
Um, but you had like little run of the mill mom and pop places out here at the time, and those were like nickel dime arcades.
Yeah, we had one
So they
called
did,
Nickel City. I remember that
yeah,
one.
they didn't have all the games that you would have at a proper arcade. They would have like I guess the hand-me-downs, or they would have the games that have been like arcade games that have been out for quite some time already. So I'd go play those. So yeah.
Did you have computer class like in elementary school growing up?
We did. I don't remember shit about it, and I don't think that any of it was actually helpful or useful because that was like what Windows 95 or earlier, some precursor
Mac,
Windows
Color Mac.
92, yeah,
Yeah.
Color Mac. Um, I don't really remember anything about that other than like Oregon Trail Math Blasters. It's like you remember the things that you enjoy about it.
See, and I think
Um,
that's we had like a slightly different upbringing there, because like, so you obviously grew up with consoles, which I think is more normal for people, even like Game
a
Boys and stuff.
little,
But like I remember vividly so much of computer class growing up, and I think that's what really hooked me on computers. Is I remember playing so much of like Kid Pix and like all these other like just weird like Cubert and random games, like
right?
educational games and
I
stuff,
mean,
and that got me
I
hooked on
got like
PC.
6 years on you, I think, right? So that would be that time frame where I think I was able to enjoy essentially 5 years or half a decade before.
Hmm.
So maybe
because they
that was
probably
just like the
weren't
norm of the
really in
evolution.
computer, yeah, or your
Yeah.
school didn't have computer classes like in
Uh,
that age bracket. But yeah, so that's a little interesting. I didn't realize
hmm.
that we had like a similar console experience growing up, but I think my school made me appreciate the computers growing up way more.
Right. I mean, I guess I'd liken that to um my youngest sibling in difference to me is like a full decade or more younger. I want to say that there's a good 10, almost 15 years of separation. I can't think at the moment. Um, and she grew up with phones where I didn't grow up with phones. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's
When
we're
did you
we're
get your
com-
first phone?
oh man, junior high.
What? it's
So
I
so
didn't go
so
until high
here's the
school.
thing. Like I worked when I was younger. That was another thing too. Is like I was working from like 15 and a half on. I've been in the labor force since then. So for me, it was like if I wanted something, I had to make money for it. So I always found a way to try to get what I wanted.
What
Um
were you doing at 15? Sorry, I keep tangenting off the different stuff,
no, you're
but
good. I was a bagger boy and then I was a cashier and then I like stocked a grocery store that was around in my neighborhood.
I feel
So
like a lot of people like
It
go to
was
grocery
it was a
stores
pretty
younger.
common thing. I mean, like when you're a kid and you're that young, like your options literally are like food, like burger, pizza, or grocery, or your family's doing something and you're stuck with your family.
Right.
Um, and that's whatever avenue that is, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Or you're I guess I could say that I was of the mowing and cutting other people's yards and grass and all that kind of like I had summer jobs. I would go and clean people's pools. I wasn't a pool guy. I didn't know fucking shit about pools or pH levels or I didn't have any chemicals. Like I'd just go and like get all
Just
the
rake the
leaves out of
leaves.
the you know what I mean? Like just clean it, you know, pull dead wasp and bees out of
The
the
filter.
containers and just like if I get stung, will I die? You know, like this just like random shit.
Mm.
Um so yeah, I mean I don't know.
I think honestly, so I know we're talking a lot about like being old and stuff,
Life being
and
old.
well, yeah, but I think that's a thing that is different between our generations because we're talking about our generations. Is that because I
Mhm.
also had a job when I was 15. I was literally cleaning out dumpsters in the back alleys of like strip malls and stuff, just getting paid under the table by individual people working there. But I did that when I was like 15, 16 to get money for my stuff. But I think our generation. Okay, so I have two things I want to say about our generation. I heard someone say this, and I don't
Hold
know where it
on.
was, but
You gotta shake when you do it.
yeah, I do. It's for emphasis.
Go on.
Um, but there's two things I wanted to say. Someone had said this, and it really stuck to me. Is that we're the generation that is too old to be racist, but too young to be woke. And I
Huh?
was like, that is perfect for us. But then also, we have a different work ethic. And I think kids in the generation below us are trying to grow up without, maybe not everyone, obviously, but a majority of them don't want a 9 to 5. They don't want to work when they're 15. They want to be social influencers and do
Yeah,
everything
I
else
think
besides work.
our metrics of success and value and purpose are different. So, I mean, to me, it's like if I make X amount of dollars, to me that's success. Whereas in somebody else, it's like I want to get as much as I possibly can. I'm willing to do anything. I'll give them I'll give Generation Z credit where credit's due is like they're willing to do things that I myself am not. But
Anything for
sometimes
internet fame, right?
but sometimes the things they're willing to do are not culturally acceptable for our generation, having come up in a I guess tougher time or more advantageous, moment in history where we have options and we kind of have to choose the hard road as opposed to the easy one. Like we didn't have things the same, if that makes sense. I don't know. Like information is more readily available for sure. Inflation is higher, which sucks for them and also sucks for us. Like we're fucked. We're
Well,
fucked
yeah,
by
it's
our
our
parents and our
generation
grandparents'
can't
generation,
buy a
and and
house.
and, and
Like,
equally they're fucked.
mhm.
But you know what I mean? Like we're also, I guess, kind of like that broken in horse where we only know what we know, and then I guess we get shipped off and we turn into glue, according to the social media. Like where our
Is that a
value
thing?
is.
Horses get turned into glue?
I'm just getting old. I'm just using old nomenclature. Like, did I go too far back? I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. That's another thing that like our generation is more prevalent in, is that like we spent time with literally the boomer generation. So I guess that's like, you call me a boomer at the beginning. It's all in joking fashion, but I mean,
You're
I
older than
guess.
me.
But well, that's not just that I'm older than you. It's that by my own life experiences, I spent more time with, I guess, my grandparents,
Hmm.
and to me, I guess that rubbed off. Like I think more of my grandparents rubbed off than my parents for sure.
I think that's pretty common, to be honest.
Oh,
I can't say the same because I didn't really know any of my grandparents. They were all dead by the time I was
dead.
cognizant. Um, but yeah, so I guess
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
fair.
just a difference of values. I mean, not get all political or religious about it. It's just those those are people that I guess invented it, and then everybody else just kind of played off of that and just more riffing.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Every so often, I think there's like a stop and a restart, so to speak, and we're kind of the beginning of the restart, but there's already been a stop and a restart within our own time as well.
It's been a weird time, that's for sure.
Yeah, part
Um,
part
oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, just part of living, part of life.
So part of the things that we were wanted to talk about because we're old people still trying to game and be active is scheduling has always been quite an issue for people our age. We're just I don't know, fucking too busy to do anything consistently. I know a lot of people I've talked to, like trying to get like D&D groups together is not a thing anymore, or just trying to get people to do a podcast together is not a thing anymore because no
True.
one can commit to scheduling, and it's just like I don't know what is it with being old and having like an actual family and stuff that just makes us not. I wouldn't say not prioritize other things like this, social curricular activities, I would
Mm,
say, but like they just completely fall off. I just
I got something, or
oh
I got
okay
topics there, but I'm gonna grab another beer, and I'm
okay
actually gonna grab a different beer that I've never tried before. So,
okay. Let me know
uh,
what it is.
yeah, 2 seconds.
IDO. Where you going? Hi, buddy.
What did I break?
You break something?
Oh, that's my Nest Cam.
Oh, okay.
Hello. I gotta put that back up there.
You have to charge yours too.
Charge what?
So you got to charge your Nest Cam.
No, it fell from above. I usually just have it so I can keep an eye on the animals throughout the day and that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
I've got a Beechwood Blonde. This was at Lily's, which is an Asian market that has where I got my sake and my beer from
Okay.
European countries. This, however, is made in Huntington Beach, California. When I was younger, I used to spend some time in Southern Cali and identify as a Southern Californian for the most
Surfer,
part.
like every Southern
Uh,
Californian.
Not so much surfer. Um, just kind of more easygoing.
You say dude a lot.
Used to.
I was just like as those words are leaving my mouth, I was like, you know what? I haven't said dude in a while, like on the regular, but it's like I used to do it a lot as a kid.
That's not bad. Blonde ale, light and easy to drinking, classic American blonde ale, pairs well with sunshine and smiles. Okay, I'm getting a little
That's
acquainted
such a
there.
California thing.
Malt, American Pilsner, Midwestern corn, hops, German.
What's the alcohol percentage on that?
5.3. And
Okay, so
then
I mean it's a pretty average beer.
yeah, and the Levisky Blonde from Ukraine was a 4.5,
Hmm.
but it's obviously a bigger bottle.
I've been really into getting like stouts and other things that are like 12, 13, 14% beers, like shit that just knocks your socks off.
So for me, alcohol's always been like a with food, because without food, it's I guess either just partying or alcoholism. Um, Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's fair. I was gonna say I like both. I do enjoy having alcohol without food because I feel like it's a lot easier to control my intake because it's way easier to feel when you're actually getting buzzed and tipsy and like you can feel that scale a lot easier as you're sipping on an empty stomach. And I
So you're
don't
saying non-social?
no, I don't think I ever actually drink outside of with someone. I think that's just kind of lonely and depressing. But
You think
like
it's lonely and depressing to drink with someone?
no, with no one. Like it's
With no
always
one. Okay.
always
Okay.
social. Like even if it's just like me and my girlfriend hanging out like on the couch or whatever, watching a movie, like whatever, we'll have a drink. But like
Date
I don't,
night.
yeah, like I don't sit like alone and be like I'm just gonna start pounding fucking beers.
Okay. Okay.
But no, I like to drink without eating like before I eat sometimes because I never drink to get drunk. I've never like
Mhm.
had a serious hangover. I don't ever black out. Like I don't vomit. Any of that stuff.
So so you never had a party phase?
No, I was never into that. It's probably because I grew up drinking wine for the most part. Like as soon as I hit 21, I was doing wineries. Because my parents at the time were in their like, oh, we're midlife crisis
Can you say
stage.
that again with your pinky out a little bit? Oh.
Fancy. You didn't do that. Oh, a little fancy wine.
Okay.
Um,
So you were drinking wines.
Yeah, so I was drinking wine, so I never really got into like that whole like I'd never heavy drinking, but like I've been
Hmm.
getting into beers lately, and now I really like to get like a really heavy beer because wines are about 14-15%. And so I like to get an equivalent beer and then just kind of like slowly drink one or two and find my perfect equilibrium of I feel like my mind washing away, but I'm still in control of myself because
Are you a rosé, a red, a pinot?
all reds. Like
Okay.
I don't like whites. There are some good like whites occasionally that
Dries?
people
I mean, I feel like some
y-
people will debate that whites are dries and reds are not, but
they're
I've
not.
also
That's too much of
heard
a
the other. I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know enough about wine.
You can have dry and rich or wet red and whites. It's more so that whites are typically aged in steel barrels, and that gives them a more tinny, metallic-y taste to them. And then
Mm.
also the grapes themselves are a lot more sweet. And I don't like sugars. I don't like sweet at all. That's my thing. I like down to the earth, like dirt and grime and salt. Like you can give me a potato with some salt on it, and I'll be good to go. But like so, like for like my reds and stuff, I like things that are very oaky and taste like soil almost. I don't know what it is. I just like natural earthy flavors, and you don't get those in whites at all. Some reds, typically like Sangios and Cabernets, are very fruit forward and they're kind of sweet and jammy. That's fine for me, but I like things that are like aged in like super old oak barrels that are like you could just taste the age on them, and a lot of people don't like that, but that's my thing.
Is it kind of like gins where they, I guess, scorch the barrel and then those sugars, the wood sugars, absorb in?
Yeah, pretty
Or
much. Wines do that
because I
too.
know with like gins, it's what junipers and more like wood dependent.
Yeah, yeah,
For
wines definitely like
for
that.
the
I don't know much about
non-alcoholics out
gins.
there,
Yeah,
for knowledge. I mean, we could put this. We could start just clipping small little tidbits in TikToks, and we just have to be facing opposite directions on ours. So like, I'll face this way, and then you've got to face. No, you got to reverse the other way.
no, I'm
You
facing
no,
you.
you got to face the other way
Why?
for me. Okay,
No,
well,
on
no,
my side,
okay.
I'm like we're
Am I looking the right direction?
yeah, we're
Okay.
looking this
Like,
way.
did you know that in gin there's juniper berries? No, I had no idea. Well, actually, in the 1950s, and it's like I fucking hate those. I hate those so much. I don't understand it. That's my old boomerness coming through. Is like I don't understand how TikToks are basically varied into like 7 groups of BGM music that determines the mood. Like
Because
there's
it's
literally
copyright
like
free.
yeah,
It's like
so
there's
it's not
seven
just
different
well,
tracks.
it's not just as yeah, it's not just that it's copyright free, but the like it identifies a mood for Gen Z, and that
So you
I
might not
just
be as old as you think because all that shit's going over my head because I don't watch TikTok anything,
I
and so
see.
I don't know
Well,
any of that shit.
so I've always been good at maintaining my awareness of social norms.
Hmm.
Um, in the past I've gone to school for some sociology, psychology-esque levels, so I feel inclined to uh have the ability to gauge, but and obviously an opinion to support my own thoughts, but that's not neither here nor there. I guess the difference between objective or subjective, right? Um no, but we've gone off on a tangent on wine, and now I'm talking about the reasonings behind something that I don't like. Anyways, let's stop.
Okay,
I
that's
think
fine.
I put the notations here. Where did it all go wrong? Lol. What gaming was like coming up, and we've already talked about consoles that we were like where were we introduced and what we experienced along the way. Um, I
So,
think.
sorry, I
Go
want
ahead.
one thing I want to talk about in that whole genre. Like, 'cause I think we're gonna bring it up eventually, but so we're like we mentioned before, we're in our 30s now, and we're still gaming pretty hard. But
Yeah.
how envious are you of 18-year-old self, where you're like, if you go back and think about it, playing like I don't know if you played Counter Strike like 1.6 and Source back in the day, or playing old Call of Duties, and you're like, I will never be as good as I was 15 years ago.
So I view myself as unrefined in my early gaming age. Like I definitely see that there was the same mentality that I've grown into now where it's like throw my head at it until I succeed. Just bash against the wall, which is very in like with Monster Hunter as a series, because that's very much a series where it's like you kind of have to have that gruffness or attitude of like, I don't care how many times I fail, I'm gonna do it until I get it right, and then I'm gonna work on getting better at it. Which is very much also like a speedrunner mentality, where it's just like until I get it perfect, it's not good enough for me. So I don't
Well,
know. Uh,
yeah, that perfectionist mentality.
yeah, that's also a generational thing, but I think that's like a people quality for sure. Like
Right, because it's the
it's a
exact same
quirk.
reason why I ever sped run or did anything is every time I would complete a level, because of course they put a fucking timer on it. I'm just like, I could have done better. I saw where I went
Right.
wrong. I could improve. I made mistakes, and then you go back and try it again, and then that
Would
starts the entire cycle.
would you classify yourself, and I know that it's such like a, I guess, clickbaity remark, where it's like, are you of that participation medal was bad generation 2 millennial, or are you
Dude,
post
okay,
that
so
millennial?
I got a small story about that. So I grew up, and I used to play a lot of sports growing up. Like I played
What'd you
football,
play?
baseball,
Okay.
volleyball.
I did
I've played it all.
volleyball.
Hmm.
Did you have the tight little shorts?
Yeah,
No. Okay.
yeah.
I did
Not
football.
very
I did
good
baseball.
on kids, but for women's is
Did
popping.
you
But
did you do YMCA? You made
no,
references? No, really?
no.
I'd say you made references to like the more or less not necessarily impoverished, but like food choices. So I feel like there was a lot of local groups when I was growing up that was like I was a Boy Scout. I did sports at the Y. I did sports in general. I did sports in school. Um, so you
Nope. Just that's
no
not even
just
school, just like private league, like little Pop Warner leagues and stuff,
okay.
like just growing up. Um but anyway, so I played football when I was like 10, I think,
Hmm.
something like that, 10 or 11. And I wasn't bad at the game. Like I was a really good
What
on
position were
defense.
you?
I was defensive line.
Okay.
So
Were you a bigger kid when you were younger?
no, I was tiny, dude.
No.
So I'm 6'4" now, okay?
Oh
And
shit. Well, I have met you in person, but it's been a while, so I think did forget how fucking tall you were.
yeah, so like I'm tall now, but growing up, like pre high school, I think my height peaked at like 5'8" or something, five
Hmm.
nine. Like I was really short. I was a really small kid growing up. I just had this weird growth spurt in high school where I grew like a foot in a year, and I have all these stretch marks across my back and shit. It was rough.
Jeez.
Um, but so as a kid, like I was defensive end. I was there to.
Defensive line or defensive end? Not to not.
It's been so
I'm not
long. I
calling you there.
honestly,
So so
I
basically, were you a blocker or were you
no
somebody who
no.
ran
I
and
was on
chased
the
down the receivers?
yeah. I was on the outside to chase down
Okay.
people.
Because I was defensive end and I was a wide receiver. So the difference between offensive, defensive play, and then I QB'd for a time until I trashed my arm in baseball.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So
So,
I was still young. So defensive end, I was just there to tackle and intercept and just stop people essentially.
did you do special teams too?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I mean, if you're so here's how that translates is that like defensive end, your goal is to chase down the people that receive and try to intercept. If you're on the offensive end, if you're on the outside, you're trying to catch the ball unless you're a linebacker, which is a little more stockier kid and tries to run through and runs with the ball. So you have two different types of runners there. You have like
Right.
the small lanky kid runner or like the tall lanky kid runner, and then you have the stocky kid runner. Additionally, special teams, the whole goal is to get to the opposite side and try to interrupt them as soon as possible, which usually they piss it all into the fastest kids. So if you're fast, then the whole goal is to get over there and interrupt them.
Gotcha.
Anyways, yeah.
So, anyways, so
Yeah.
I wasn't terrible. I was pretty decent, but my team sucked. We had the worst team. Like I think we lost every single game of our
Like the
league.
worst in your league, or
Yeah, like we literally lost every game. I don't think we won a single game. I think we only made one touchdown actually. Like we're bad. We're really fucking bad. I don't know what it was, but I don't remember too much of it as a kid.
I had a lot of anger in me as a kid. So like my whole thing was I'm gonna build up speed so I can crash into people, kind of
That's
shit.
fair.
So
That's
yeah,
fair.
well, I was pretty
Um,
good for a time.
yeah, so we're bad. And then at the end of the season, they gave us a trophy. And we're like, I was looking around because I didn't understand. I was just as a kid. I was like, why am I getting a trophy? Like, did we place
So were
or
you
something?
bothered by the trophy?
I was very bothered by the fucking
Okay.
trophy. I was like, well, we lost. Like, what are we doing? And they were handing out all these trophies, and it was just like a generic, like there was no name on it, no whatever. It was just like a generic, hey, here's your fucking trophy. And I was just like,
I feel like
what?
we got mixed signals as kids, where
It was
the
super weird.
that was like we're like the first generation of the participation trophy, but we're also still like that generation that was raised to like deny the participation trophy. So it's like you do your best, go out and put on a good show. Like I think even in like in the previous pod with you, where it's like we were talking about the Monster Hunter thing, is like I just want to go out there and put on a good show. I just want to go out there and perform.
Mhm.
Bring my best self. Um, so that's a very much a generational mentality, I think, that we still kind of bring to our work ethic, is what you mentioned as well. So it's like if I'm not succeeding, then I guess I'm failing, and that's like a real hard thing to kind of self-reflect on. I don't know if you share that
See, and that's
mentality.
another thing I was going to ask you. So let me finish up my little thing really quick,
Okay,
and
go
then,
for it.
then I got one other thing to ask you. So we got the trophy, and I honestly didn't know what to do with it. I asked my father, "What is this for?" And he said, "For playing." And I was like, "So what if we won?" And he said, "You'd still get that trophy." And then I was just like, "I don't want the trophy. Like, what is it? It does nothing. There was no attachment to it." And so like ever since then as a kid, I was just like, I don't get the idea of
Does
participation
that
trophy.
explain the Monster Hunter trophy
Yeah, now
at
that
the
I think
world
about it, it's
competition?
pretty much
And I'm
like
like,
that.
did we just discover a psychological reason there? Like we just Dr. Phil'd it.
If anyone doesn't know, I was a complete asshole during like the base
We
world
talked about this a
competition.
little bit, but very lightly. I wanted to be respectful when I was on as a guest, and
Oh
obviously
god.
I didn't dig my heels in on it. But it was one of those things where the whole time I was there, I didn't view Fem poorly, but at the same time, there was three situations. There was like the Shepherd gang, there was me and Omni, and there was Fem. And I don't know if it was like me and Omni were in the middle of like neutral, and then you have like chaotic evil and chaotic good. But like you weren't the neutral option for sure. Um, so you gave away your trophy. Yeah, and like who is it? Is it THC or who's
TSC, yeah.
TSC? Sorry, I didn't mean anything by it. Um, I can feel this.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. So he was asking, or his girlfriend was talking to other teams, and it felt like probing. So that whole scenario for me was this big scripted drama of speedrunner v speedrunner, and then there was
Right.
like me and Omni, like just let's go out there and put on a good show for the
Uh
because we care.
we were definitely not of that mindset. And so basically like not only did we probe everyone for their clear times and post them before Capcom did.
Yeah,
So that
it
was the
felt
thing
like
we
it. It
did
felt
because
like it.
I don't know why we did that, but we did
And
that.
also your guys' team name was like denied, and you guys obviously were perturbed by your team name not being acknowledged in every iteration of naming or communicating on where teams were sitting.
Well, that was
Yeah.
the weird thing. Yeah, so our team name was Nerf Chargeblade, which was funny because they did in Iceborne, so that was funny. But yeah, basically every time like they were because they were posting like hidden rankings on
Mhm.
like for all the qualifiers, and our team was not there at all. I'm like, there's no way all these teams beat me in TAC. We had like a set strategy. We were number one, I think, in all the qualifiers for the Puke of Arena.
So like me and Omni, I think came placed third for Puke, which I mean we ended up placing third for overall. But um, one of the things, do you recall the Capcom people that were there? The one chick who was like Street Fighter, and the one dude who was from like Street Fighter, and they're talking about it. They're talking us up like, all right, guys, when you get out there, like, this is tournament level stuff, and like they were talking about it as if we were at a fighting game competition. And I say that confidently, having been at a fighting game competition before as a participant. And
Mhm.
it's just like they were taking Monster Hunter to a different level, and it's not that I don't want to see Monster Hunter at that level, and I do think that much later on when the world champions were essentially screened and they brought some American personalities to commentate, and they were talking like speed runner language, that was too far. I think that like it fell flat. Like a lot of people are just like, what the fuck are they talking about? It's
Mhm.
not an entry level thing. But yeah, just the way that Capcom handled it, I think that they like
The problem was
overthought it.
the Capcom, the people that were there organizing the tournament, I don't think they understood Monster Hunter,
Correct.
and a lot of the stuff that they were doing was just not working out. But
Well, it's like the Capcom people that were there that were the Monster Hunter community reps were kind of in the back, and the Capcom reps for other games, specifically fighting games, were at the forefront. And it's
right,
not the first time that I of the belief and feelings that Yuri has been kind of shadowcast or pushed aside for somebody else's opinion, and that's just my take on the Monster Hunter community and in general. Like our NA reps have never really flourished, unfortunately.
yeah. I
They've
mean, have you
always
ever
been.
tried getting like an early code or anything from your NA PR person? Like,
I never had issues with that at first. Like
sorry,
I
that's a me problem. I don't mean
that's
to
a you
display
problem.
that. It's a me
Hold on,
problem.
let's scroll up. Capcom's number one blacklisted speedrunner.
Dude. Okay, so how many games have you actually requested like an early copy or review copy from?
So my relationship with Yuri, I feel like, was always fairly genuine from my part onto him, and for the most part, fairly genuine from his part onto me. Um, I would never ask immediately. I would usually wait a little bit, and by that I mean that like I think that the relationship with, like, we'll have to do a pod about content creation and pros, cons, negativity, all that kind of stuff. As
Right.
far as like our take on our surroundings, which probably would like branch into like toxicity and your starting kit for every bad Monster Hunter podcast, and just our
That would be a great name for a podcast. Every bad Monster Hunter podcast.
ouch. Yeah, but I mean, like, but the problem is that we'd probably pick on fish that are bigger than us and then get eaten in the process. So that goes back to
Wah.
our pre-canceled podcast as the name of that works. It works. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're along for the ride if you want to be.
Nope.
If you want to be. Now, I think at the very bottom of our notes here, I put like prompt questions, engagement for future pods. So I would like feedback. I think you would like feedback. I think that it could be an interesting relationship if people like it.
I mean,
But
yeah, I'm always open for additional talking points and things that like, hey, Fem, you're
yeah,
hogging up too much fucking screen time. Give other people a chance to talk. And I'm like, fine, I'll get Sarah in here and he'll talk for 6 straight hours, and I'll just say, okay, that's fine.
yeah. So I put trial by fire. What are things people are looking for? What are we looking to bring on into the fold? Finding the framework, the bones of the podcast. So we definitely have ideas for the podcast as far as like different types of podcasts. Hopefully we'll do this relatively soon, as long as they fit in our schedule, which goes back to the main
Just being
talking point
old,
of being
man.
old.
It's hard to get. It's hard scheduling stuff. But yeah,
And
I
then,
mean, we definitely got a ton of ideas to do other stuff. Like, yeah, there's a lot we need. Like, even like the things that we wanted to talk about, like today, we haven't gotten to them entirely. But another point I wanted to bring up, being this whole episode is more about us being old and gaming in our 30s
And
essentially. That's been most of the
getting to
talk,
know each other
and
for
that
sure.
too, and that
Yeah.
too.
I mean, like feeling each other out. So like we both have like different sides of stories here for like similar situations, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Different experiences and see how that like rounds off of one another.
Mm.
We're talking about sports. You're talking about participation medals. And I was like, "Are you of?" And you're like, "Let me tell you the story." Um, I appreciate that. I think I see the gem in there. You know, the
You
the
get the
crown,
glint in my eye when I get an idea or a thought. Otherwise, I'm just
the
glazed.
crowning achievement.
Yeah.
So I put comparisons and what is it? Kind of content we like. So I think originally I was thinking of what kind of games did we gravitate towards in our youth and as we've grown up, now that we're in our 30s respectively. Like what is it that like I feel over the years that has evolved. And obviously when we were kids, 6 years difference whatever, a lot of games were more so platform games for sure. So I think that like we have a grounding or history in platforming. And then
I
as
want
we
to
were growing.
interrupt you
No,
because I
okay.
was never into platforming. Maybe it's because I was so PC oriented and I started with Doom
Really?
and like Wolfenstein and stuff. I was really big into shooters, and
Okay.
I think as far as like platforming goes, like Sonics and Mario's and even Metroid games back in the day, kind of platformy, same kind of
I guess
premise
that's
and
more
stuff.
me.
Yeah,
I
like
guess I'm once again the progenitor of speedrunning here. It's like I came from that environment with the mentality, and you came from a different environment with
so
the same mentality.
so you grew up when you started playing games and stuff. You were more into the platform gaming, like you
Yes,
played
I,
like
I was I was infantile in diapers, and then the controller reached my hands, and then like I sprouted and became a full human being, and I was realized. But but yes.
So, do you remember like the genres of games growing up from like as an infant to now, and like what was your
So
like go-to
yeah,
genre?
so platformers, and then it was a combination of isometric and gunning, like FPS.
Hmm.
But even then, FPS wasn't fully refined. So I mean, like the Quakes, the Dooms, the Duke Nukem's, the Golden Eyes, that evolved that way. And then the arcade games very much evolved into the fighting genre. But then the arcades essentially went away, so the fighting genre retained its stay in consoles. Then you started getting like the Mortal Kombat's and the Street Fighters on consoles, the Clay Fighters, the Primal Rage. I'm trying to think of other gems in there that were like big staples for me growing up.
Killer
Um,
Instinct.
yeah, Killer Instinct.
Dude, I remember Primal Rage. That was great.
Primal Rage is a fun fucking game. I'm in the process of recollecting a lot of my childhood games,
Oh, that's a really
and
cool thing to do.
yeah. So the reasoning behind that, without like this will have to be talking about depression and family and all that kind of bullshit. But when I was younger, a lot of my games got stolen or lost, or you know what I mean? Like I sold them, or just along the way, that stuff went away. And then in the process of like, I guess in the last couple of years working on myself, that was a goal that I set out to have, where it was just like, I want to have what I lost. I want to not to like force myself to relive or be that person, but to I guess capture some of that essence of my childhood that felt lost or taken from me. So I've been like recollecting my PlayStation collection, my Nintendo's collection, and I mean, obviously, I don't have like everything in like the most pristine order or whatever. Like I definitely do CIB stuff, and I guess for the collectors out there, that's complete in box. There's a whole retro market as far as like what manuals and books and having things for the value of just looking at it and going, like it's pristine and it's good, and that's in me as a collector. But at the same time, also I'm like I want to be able to play the shit that I used to play. One, because do I remember it accurate to what it was, and then also because that was such a formative experience for me growing up with gaming. So it's like I remember what is this Nuclear Strike, um, top-down isometric that was on PlayStation. So I've been getting Soviet Strike, Nuclear Strike. There was Desert Strike. These games were also in the Sega genre, and there was different strikes in those. You're basically in a Apache helicopter, or other different
Like
types of
Gradius.
helicopters. Or yeah, and it was like kind of that Command and Conquer esque, but you're moving around and doing missions. So it was like Galadia, but in 3D, which was like an arcade experience
Okay.
where you're the ship flying back and forth, shooting down stuff. You have to like rescue people and extract them. Um, and it's just like those kind of gaming experiences where, so I think like a lot of me trying to recapture it is also piecing together parts of my childhood growing up, where it's like relations that I had to people. I've unfortunately had a lot of my family pass on. So for me, it's a connection point.
Right,
Like I can
because in
think
your
of
memories, you're attaching what you were playing at the time to what you
correct.
were doing at the time. Like,
Correct.
yeah.
So I mean, like, so for me, like games, I guess ascend just the aspect of escapism, which I
Well,
think like
well, no, I
we've
understand that 100% because,
yeah.
like I said, you attach memories to points in your life, and then when you think about like those games, because they're obviously very important to you, you also start
Mhm.
remembering things that were going on around that time when you were playing those games.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, I get it 100%, and I think it's really cool that you're doing that. You're picking up all the things and going back and to basically collect all your old memories, which is it's pretty heartwarming to be honest. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, so I try not to be all too sappy or whatever. Like, I think I definitely got pegged wrong at the wrong time, and I like maintained a course of I'm this dirty old veteran, and I'll be the villain, and so on, like to, I guess, appease an image. Not that I've ever tried to be somebody that I'm not.
I think you wear
But
that stigma too hard, to be honest. I don't
yeah,
think that, like, if you came back to the Monster Hunter community, I, I don't know. I don't think
so
anyone would even see you as that.
so
What
I
would you pin
I
yourself as?
I blame myself in a lot of ways for like the fallout of the team that I used to run. I blame myself for not like seeing things, for not like dealing with certain issues. Obviously, I felt like I was not a hoarder of secrets, but like I was like the treasury of secrets. Like people put their problems upon my shoulders, and I tried to bear that weight. And I tried to maintain friendships and then also maintain the friendships of people to people relationships. So I tried to be the mediator. And in many cases I failed at being that mediator. One, because it wasn't my fucking problem to begin with. Two, because you can only do so much. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're not living that life, you're not making those choices. Um, Obviously I could go into like my own personal traumas as far as things that like I'm very much responsible for doing, and a lot of things in Monster are out of my control. So like a lot of the relationships that were there, or like the drama or the backstabbing bullshit or the politics or all of that, to me was very much something that I was never in control of, and not a narrative that I wanted to control, but it was one that I felt like I was obligated or somehow responsible to have an influence in. So it's like that's where I'd put my foot down and try to have take a stance or try to like pay it forward. So I feel like I did like a lot of those twit longers or streams where um I tried to bring other streamers together and be like, hey, let's talk about real shit. And that's another thing too, is that like the Mohan scene is very much like at face value, or skin deep kind of stuff where people aren't willing to sacrifice their status or their how they're viewed in the community.
Their position.
Correct. So there's a lot of neutrality. There's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, like I'm friends with everybody, even though they're very much on the offhand putting people down and creating situations for them. It's not that I want to feed into that, because I find that to be like a very high school-esque mentality and or treatment of an issue. So
Hmm.
it's not actually resolving anything. Um, but I always felt like I'm the fucking adult here. And going back to like the beginning conversations of like we came up with technology, so there's a certain level of ownership, and it's like I came up with Monster Hunter, so there's a certain level of ownership, and I think we've kind of danced around that topic a little bit, where it's just like I'm I'm the old king. I might be the forgotten king, but I'm the old king. Like in my time, I ruled, and when I ruled, it was good. And the thing
Well,
was that I view good about it is that I respected people, and I gave people the opportunity to do something with it. And you could probably break that down more and be like, well, why do you think that you had the power? And it's like, well, no, the thing is that people look to me, and in turn I provided people the opportunity to grow and sought to, I guess, um, nurture that growth. Like I've always wanted to pay it forward and give somebody else the reins. And that was my mentality. So like obviously I went down a very different path in Monster Hunter than you went down in Monster Hunter for sure.
Now, and I think that, because we've talked about this before off stream and stuff, but like, obviously you have a long, rich history with the Monster Hunter franchise, but I think you don't, I don't know, have a community presence much these days because of self-implemented like reasons. Like the community is not as vitriolic as or towards you in general as you might think, because most of the old guard has moved on, but you still have this mindset of like
a lot of
back in
people
the
are
day.
gone.
They
A
are,
lot of people are gone. Yeah, like there's the walls that were there that were preventing me from doing more, and or the secrets that I was harboring that I didn't want to just like bash somebody into the ground and be like, see how much of the victor I am. Like there was a lot of situations where it's like people with alcohol and drugs, people with relationships and and nefarious actions, people with drama on, or I guess what would you call that? Just dirt on everybody. Like I felt like I was constantly in a situation where it's like I was holding dirt, but I didn't want to be that person that was going to be known for a snitch or selling people out or putting like calling
but
people on
again,
shit.
this is like,
It
I
put me in
feel
such
like
a precarious mindset,
this is
and
all
that's more to
imposed on
do.
you though. Like
Yeah.
I think
Well,
this
no,
is
you're
you're
right,
battling
but
in your head because, well, so we've talked before about like, why don't you come back to streaming a bunch of Monster Hunter or try to like to build back your fan base or do something like that, and you're just like, oh no, the Monster Hunter community doesn't want me. But I'm like,
well,
I feel like
the
it's
thing
all
is that
you.
like, well, I mean, we've even talked about that too. Is that like I never sought out for a fan base. I wasn't trying to be like the voice of a Monster Hunter generation.
But I feel
I
like you
was
want to be included.
I do want to be included. It would be nice to be respected
Right, but you got to get
for
yourself out there more, and you don't want to do that.
efforts. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're calling me on my shit for sure.
Well, because like I said, like everyone that was around when you were around when Monster Hunter first started and stuff, they're gone. Like you have to build
Well, I'm not.
relationships and
It's
new
not even
people.
that. It's that when Monster first started and those people, because I've already come to terms with all of that, like as far as the trolls in that era and game facts and all that bullshit. So it's not even that like I'm trying to take it back to square one. It's more so the streaming community of Monster Hunter. So it's the social presence of Monster, and that's not as old as Monster Hunter. So that's very
True.
much like Half-Life. So like 2011 going on, that's where the media presence, the acknowledgement, and or the growth of personality or persona within Monster Hunter stemmed. So I mean, I might have ruled from 2004 up to 2010, and no one can say the difference of it. But the thing is that from 2014 or 2013, whatever the fuck I got involved with Justin TV, and then Twitch TV as like one of the progenitors of Monster Hunter streamers goes. And then my influence there and interaction with people, those people, that's still within the last decade. So for me, they're not quite gone. And also the impressions that were left behind, or the shit slinging that went back and forth, those people still very much have, I guess, instant access to me. So I'm not trying to like, I guess, justify like a reason why to stay sealed, but it's just there's more there than not. So it's not like it's like 19 years
I know
old or
you're
20
not
years
like
old.
fresh slate,
It's
kind of like
yeah. And I
but
mean, I've had a lot of time to mull over it. So I mean, obviously, I'm talking more candidly than I have about this stuff before, even back in my heyday of streaming. But I mean, some of those people aren't really gone for me, and mind you, they might have never reached the success to, I guess, silence me. But I still like I'm trying to retain a certain decorum of respects. Like, do you want me to just start name dropping and being
no,
like
no,
this
no, 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 no. Come
this
on.
person bought, they never went to Universal Japan. They just bought the keys online and then used that to stream so that they would get more popularity and views, and then acted like they went to Japan. So like like just dumb shit. This people, this high end individual was defending their friends. So what they did was they put down my whole entire team and then shit on them. And then these people tried to crack my
You're
information
obviously still very
and dox
salty
me.
over it.
You know what I mean? And then and then I was getting fucking threats from people. So it's like one of those things where it's like it's multi-layered for sure. And I'm still absolving on like how I want to approach that.
Okay, here's what
Not that
we're
we need
gonna
to
do.
carry this conversation on.
No, but here's what we're gonna do. why don't, just for the shits and giggles, because we don't have anything better to do, because we don't have adult lives, start a co-op stream of whatever Monster Hunter game.
Okay.
Any of them. Freedom Unite, GU, for
Are you my
you.
fucking training wheels?
It depends
I
on
mean,
what game it is, because I'm definitely gonna be.
that's a degree of sarcasm and also hatefulness, but genuinely hatefulness.
But no,
Oh boy,
just to get you back into the game and get like your Monster Hunter presence out there, because I know you're playing
I'm playing
lightly.
other games. I
Yeah,
mean, like at the same time, like my fallout with Monster Hunter, I think, was also like falling out of love with the series that
that's
has
fair.
evolved away from what the series was for me at so many different
We
connection
can play
points.
Freedom Unite. I've never played
Yeah,
Freedom Unite. We could do a co-op stream of
I'm,
that.
I mean, I can play the old shit all the time without bitching or complaining,
Okay.
and that's fine. But
I've never played a second gen game.
no, okay.
No.
I've been meaning to. I've been wanting to hook up my PlayStation. I still have my HDD drive and everything like that. And then they've re-brought back the old OG servers, and I feel like that would be fun to play on OEM.
I
Which
don't
I
have
want
any
to.
of that, but maybe if we have like a
Well, I
PSP
mean,
emulator.
I think at some point it would be fun to, just as much as I'm recollecting all this physical shit, it would be fun to. I think this is a topic for a whole nother pod that I threw down in our notes about like OEM versus emulation.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I've I'm not so stuck in my way purist that I've never emulated. I've definitely emulated a lot of games, and I've emulated a lot of games that I already own, and that also kind of goes back to the whole ownership and a different topic. But um, yeah, I think we should
I like
we should
original
should
hardware, but I also acknowledge as the years go on, it just gets harder and harder and harder to sustain that.
get in a car that drives itself, and then go and drive something that is pure classic muscle. And there's, what I
Well,
mean.
just not even that. It's just like the availability of people to go back and get like a PS2 to play the original couple Monster Hunter games is just not really an option.
You don't think so?
Not really. I mean, no, I could like
Well, I mean,
just think about like if
you
I
can't
would.
do it on the official servers, but you can do it outside of the official
Well,
servers.
I know, but at that point, I mean, you might as well be modding. But I mean, I get the appeal and the purity of playing on original hardware. People still do like 3U on Wii U and stuff like that, or playing on the PSP, playing Freedom Unite and stuff, like on the actual consoles. But like as someone who, when I grew up, because again, I'm younger, all that stuff like the PS2s, the PSPs and stuff, those were never owned by me. Those were like my brothers and stuff that I would just play on.
Right.
So as an adult, I don't have any of that stuff. But if I were to go back and try and buy a PS2 or a PSP and get the games and stuff, it is just a headache and a nightmare. And as the years
It
go on,
is.
less and less people are going to be able to even have that chance. So I, at this point, fully embrace emulation wherever possible. Of
Give
course,
me
it's
a
not
sec, Finn.
perfect. Yeah, yeah, go.
2 seconds. No joke. I had to piss so bad.
That's fair.
Goes
That's
to
fair.
goes to show you how much I do drinking wise. I'm very much a rare special occasion drinker. So it's
I'm an alcoholic. Not officially, but if I don't go to the doctors, it's never gonna be official.
yeah. I mean, you could WebMD that shit, I guess.
Why would I do that?
Yeah, true. No. So we're talking about the hardship of acquiring the OEM, going out of your way to get it, and then essentially you just feel like that's too much. It's too much
Well,
work.
maybe not even nowadays, like because you can still get PlayStation 2s, and like old. I think getting games is harder than getting the actual old consoles, but it just like in the next
I
couple
like the
years.
PlayStation True.
What the
that sings
PlayStation
to
True,
that sings to my veteranness.
PlayStation True,
Not just PlayStation 2, it's PlayStation True.
yeah,
If you
but
if you're a Monster Hunter one player PlayStation True, together stronger.
I will never play a first gen Monster Hunter game. I'll say that outright. Not
What?
doing
Why?
it. I just
No.
not. Even
I've
people who
got
have gone back to play have only ever shown how awful the first gen Monster Hunter
to
is.
me it's autopilot at this point. Like it's one of those things where all semblance of myself has washed away, and all that's left is the ability
Is routine
to
and rhythm. You're just like,
correct, just retain. I mean, you talk about your speed running, get into headlocking, like just full blown headlocking with
Yep.
every weapon and or different stances of headlocking, which it's like there's a whole history of Monster Hunter lost to the present day of Monster Hunter community. And I
because
think
it's a different game entirely, though.
true, and those are also, I think, things that I wanted to like talk about, not in this podcast, but not in this episode, but at some point, I do want to go back and essentially set the record straight, like that.
That's
What
gonna
is
be a
it?
good
That
one.
the Monster Hunter Apocalypse Now, or
No, that'll be
Great
a good
Apocalypse
one.
is a Monster Hunter.
Um,
I
but
think
anyway,
I
so
I think yeah. So I think we gravitated away from the concept of gaming in our 30s,
well,
and then
the
also
whole idea for
gaming in
this
our 60s.
podcast was it's a brief introduction. It's a
Right.
roundup of like who we are, where we're at, and kind of stuff. And we've talked about a lot of stuff in our personal lives and growing up, and kind of
A little bit.
our history and stuff. A little bit, just a little bit of everything.
If
Definitely
you
want
want
to do if we can. If
for
I
it.
don't know if it's possible, a Freedom Unite co-op playthrough for Monster Hunter. I think that would be great for everybody. I've never played it. You need to get your face back out there. I think that'd be great. Yeah, yeah. But trying to schedule that's also going to be fun. So
Yeah, true.
we'll do that because
Because we how many hours of sleep do you get?
fucking like 5, maybe 6. I don't know.
Same.
Like,
Same. I mean, like if you go back and slap old self you, like what are you gonna what knowledge are you gonna impart?
I've never had
before
good sleep. Well, because here's the thing. So like growing up, like between the ages of like I don't know 12 and 20, I was big into
fucking like this.
MMOs. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to send me the name of that when we're done.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
hit it up. It's Huntington
we'll,
Beach.
we'll
Yeah.
drink it together on one,
Okay.
and then you can tell me how much you fucking hate it.
No, probably not. But yeah, so like I grew up playing MMOs most of my like childhood into like teen years and stuff, and I was playing Ragnarok Online, Fantasy Star
I played
Online,
Row.
and WoW, and
Fantasy Star was hit or miss. I think I was of the GameCube era of Fantasy
well, I mean
Star.
that's the one I was playing, Fantasy
Okay.
Star and GameCube because that's the
Okay.
best. All the other Fantasy Stars suck, but I played a lot of MMOs, and so I never had.
Did you do EverQuest?
I didn't do EverQuest
Final
actually.
Fantasy 11.
No,
You look like a World of Warcraft kind of guy. That wasn't meant as an
I
install.
played a lot of WoW. Yeah, a lot of WoW. I
You
played
were WoW?
a lot of WoW until WoW came out. I was playing a lot of Ragnarok. I played a lot of Ragnarok.
IRO or KRO or like private.
So
server?
I played IRO when IRO came out as like beta for North America, and I played that for about.
Those that don't know, that would be International Ragnarok Online, and then KRO is Korean Ragnarok Online, which is where it originated.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Dude, there's a
saying.
whole history of Ragnarok. Ragnarok was wild.
Ro's got a history, bro.
Yeah,
Ro's got such a steep history. Player history, more so than the lore of the game, because the lore of the game is still good, but nobody fucking cares about that. It's the player history.
People like the lore of the company and the servers and all that shit, though. Of how
Were you big into WoW as far as the War of
I did
Emporium?
like WoW. Yeah. So
Okay.
when
What was your primary class?
So I primarily played a Stormgust wizard. So I clicked one button and dumped Stormgust on
you
the.
dirty filth.
Yeah, how was that?
I was an Asura Fist champion.
Oh,
and
it's
I
a fucking MVP over here. Just yeah, just one tap and shit.
boss.
So-
Just roll through WoW and just go slap that sorcerer dead.
So I did do a bit of WoW in IRO, and I played a lot of IRO. I played like 2 years of IRO. I had a rogue and a wizard for the most part.
Those
with my
servers were
characters.
brutal to fucking farm, and the
Oh
XP was like
It's bad.
I don't think I've ever played a MMO that gave you less for your efforts.
Well, and like that's why it would take like getting 99 would take months of grinding.
It's a generational fucking MMO, is what
Yeah,
that
like,
is.
and
It's
you
it's a hard work ethic.
Yeah,
You like
it's rough.
Ramen and macaroni and cheese MMO.
Yes, but it's like, and then if you die and you lose like I think it's like 2% or something or whatever at the time.
Like I want to say that the higher your level was, the more it hurt to die.
Well,
if
yeah,
I'm not
because it would take
mistaken.
like an entire day of getting back those percentages. It was rough. It was really bad.
And some of those bosses, dude, just like, if you didn't have good internet connection back then, if your AOL disk was not fresh, then you would in fact die. and
Yeah,
and lose
and
quite a
it
bit
is
of
rough.
opportunity there.
It's rough.
Yeah.
RO was rough. I loved RO though. So I played a lot of RO as a kid, and then like after IRO started to get like really infested with like bots and microtransactions and stuff, then I moved off of IRO to play private servers, and those were a wild west of fucking RO
I
as
like
well.
that when you stream, you have BGM music from games, and like row is pretty frequent in your shit.
I love Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's good. This
I
memory is there for sure.
I
Like
replayed Ragnarok.
every time Frontiera music comes up, I think of all the fucking markets that took like
That's
the little market
exactly what.
cards that
Yeah.
would like have to load in,
Yep.
and then there would be people wandering around like, "What the fuck is going
Dude,
on?" And
I
it's just
love
like,
RO. And
yeah.
I had replayed RO over the summer, this recent summer, on a private server called Pay on Stories, which is a one times raids private server. It has some custom stuff like custom dungeons and whatever.
Uh-huh.
Nothing crazy though. It is pretty 1-to-1. And I did the grind to 100, but I've got to say, putting on my boomer glasses, going back to play a game that's 20 years old at this point, it's not as bad as it was. I grinded to 100
So
in like
the
a
art
month.
style or aesthetic of that game is kind of timeless
It
in the
is.
sense of
It holds up.
that 2.5D bullshit surprisingly holds up because it stays consistent. It's not like they're trying to, I don't know. I don't know if you've are you big on like the Disgaeas or Bravery
I
Defaults or the
I
Octopaths
did
or
play
any of that
Bravely
kind of stuff?
Defaults in Disguise. I'm not big into them, but I have
Okay.
played them. Yeah.
So some of those games to me, whenever they come out with a remaster, you can definitely see where like the age is on it, and I don't know if it's just like the way that they port forward or not.
Yeah, because they kind of like up texture them and stuff, and it
And
doesn't really look great. That's
I
like
think,
what
yeah,
I was
go ahead.
like. They recently redid a bunch of like Disney games, like Gargoyles and stuff, which looks fucking
Yeah,
terrible.
they did Aladdin and Lion King as a combo for Switch, and
Yeah, and they
then
don't look good.
Gargoyles and something. Yeah, no, they don't play
But
good either.
Ragnarok does hold up. It absolutely does. The
Okay.
gameplay does not. The gameplay is so outdated. And I mean, again, I did the grind again back to 100. It wasn't as bad as it was, but the game visually is what I want in like another game going forward. I love the sprite
If you
animations, the
stick around long
2.5D.
enough for the Taekwondo and then like the Star Saint,
Star
whatever,
Gladiator,
Star
Taekwondo,
Glad, yeah,
Soul Linker. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I've
okay.
played all of Ragnarok. I played a lot.
Okay.
And I don't like post renewal Ragnarok. It's a totally different game.
So if you played through, you've played every class, right?
I played everything. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me if I'm not mistaken that like being a monk and going to that upper kind of like old dead church to kind of become a monk and then go from monk to champion didn't hold like a certain level of like reverence for you.
Oh,
Like you just
dude,
felt like
trans
you were
classes
like
were fucking high
you
tier shit.
yeah, you were it's always kind of like that Indiana Jones moment where it's like you're stumbling upon lost knowledge here and you're just like I've ascended.
Well, and it's great in those official servers when the rates are low because you are like in that top percentage. It's not like today where everyone's always, max level and that's where the game starts.
There's
No, 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 no.
100,000 in the top 8% of player blah 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 with this thing.
Yeah.
It's like no, you're like one of 100 if that.
Yeah, like it meant something back then to go from like 99 to go transcend and then change your jobs and do all that stuff. And then and the thing is I really liked about Ragnarok, especially back then when we didn't have like the mass media that we do, is you talked in game and people recognize you in game and people could see you and you were unique and special and it wasn't so
Yeah, so
disproportionate.
that goes this is definitely something that has to be touched up in a different pod about like the laurels of gaming and how you can't take it with you anywhere else or even just like ancient gaming communities so to speak as far as the history there because there was a special place for y- it's not so much like the individualism of today, it was the individualism of then. So being top tier was really top tier, and being top tier now, I think, is just like the static norm. Like nobody's.
Well, yeah, because then you got to think, you're being top tier in a game that's got, I don't know, what's being generous, 10,000 people
10K,
playing it.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was
And
thinking.
it's
You got
like
10K people,
the
and you're like
community is so
the
much
top
tighter and
100.
people know and people recognize. But now you have like, oh, this game has, 20 million fucking players and your top
Yeah,
tier
that's
1% is
Monster
still
Hunter. That's
10.
Monster Hunter for me, where it's just
Yeah.
like the first X amount of games. It's like we got like 25K or less, and then you
And
hit
now we're
like
in
a
the
world.
millions.
you
Yeah,
know, and then you're like
and now you're
20
nothing.
million worldwide, and it's like, fuck you, shut up,
Yeah.
I don't care.
No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah.
smaller, tighter knit communities were definitely a thing and the appeal of a lot of games back then, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially Fantasy Star. That was a good one too. I love Fantasy Star.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're also in like in a reemergence of remakes and reboots and everything like that. Like
So
just the
I know we're gonna get on a million off topics,
yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, I mean
if
that's part of what we
I
have for
I get,
today,
yeah,
but
that's just the thing. So if there was a remake to a game like that, you get to decide, not a
fuck.
not like remaster, like just graphic updates, but like a remake, so you get to change mechanics and all that shit. What game do you want to get remade? Yeah.
I mean, they've already done a Dead Space, and they've obviously we get a new Monster Hunter every so many years.
I don't think
And they've
Monster Hunter,
already
like, sorry, sorry.
rebooted and rewritten Final Fantasy so
So
many times.
they have. Sorry, I didn't want to stop you already. I hate
Yeah.
when people say that Monster Hunter 3 and 4 should get remastered and reported to like the Switch stuff. Like, there's no point. Like, every Monster Hunter game is literally the old Monster Hunter game plus one new gimmick and some monsters. That's how everything is. So if you were to go back and remaster like 3U or 4U and just tighten up the graphics and then do what? Like, whatever
I
you
would
do,
be
it's just
okay
another Monster
with
Hunter game.
I would be okay with ports, but full remasters I think is silly.
There's
Like
no point. I mean, yeah, like if
yeah.
they ported 3U and 4U over to the Switch and just said, "Hey, the online servers work over here because we
Yeah.
destroyed them on the
I'd
3DS and Wii U," I'm
I'd be
like,
cool with
"Great,
that.
yeah, like great." But people want like remasters. I'm like, no, there's just make a new Monster Hunter game. It's exactly the same thing.
I don't know. I don't know if I get in my car now and come get you and, and then
Like
bury
if
you
you took like
somewhere,
Monster Hunter like
or
3,
if I believe everything you're saying and go along with it. So yeah,
dude, it would be the same. Like it be, I don't know.
mostly.
I feel like if they remastered like 3U or something, or like Freedom Unite, people would be like, "Oh, this Monster Hunter game is just World or Rise, but with less monsters."
Yeah, if they remade old like first, well, let's say fuck it, not first gen, second gen, third gen, essentially, primarily. If they did try to remaster or reboot those, then yes, I think people would be genuinely dissatisfied, and that Moha and Capcom shares would take a dip. And I don't know, it's not a game that present day community wants to play. Unfortunately, it's it might be good for me, but
But it's like, but what would be the point of remastering it? Because like, what would you do? You'd tighten up the hitboxes, make it a little bit more
so
quality of life
so
changes.
I think that there's an emergence of like not quite gaming archaeology or like but game preservation. So it's like
For sure.
it sucks that there's these games that had these amazing experiences online and now they're gone. Um and more often than not, it's like so like Wild Hearts coming up. Wild Hearts is going away because EA done giving up on it, right?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. That's a brand new fucking game, and it's just going to be wiped away from the slate. That game could have easily had multiple years of support, and then eventually ended up in the hands
Dude,
of
I feel so bad
private
about that
servers
game.
with mods. And it's actually a really good fucking game, Monster Hunter like, but not quite Monster Hunter esque. You know what I mean?
They had a
Like
lot of good ideas. I really
the
enjoyed Wild Hearts.
even the building once it's like once you let go of certain preliminary like I don't know, that sounds kind of gross and dirty and wrong and
It's
like well that
Fortnite.
building it's Fortnite Monster Hunter
It's
like
not, dude.
once you get past your own fucking stupidness or the social media level of stupidness, like when you have formulated your own opinion on something, it's pretty organic. It's really fun.
The fights are
it's
good too.
it's different in the best ways of being different. It's not a Monster Hunter clone. It's of the hunting genre of gaming, which is, I guess, is now a thing.
Right, and
Wasn't
between
for a long time, but I mean now
Suikoden,
it's
Monster Hunter,
yeah,
Dauntless, Soul Eater, and Wild Hearts, it's a very small genre,
yeah, but it is
but
a genre for
and
sure.
it's probably my favorite genre. I love hunting genre games.
So yeah, I mean it's unfortunate to see something new already lose its backing, but think back even further, like I was big into SOCOM in the PlayStation days. That was my my guilty pleasure. Like I was Admiralty. I did like world competition bullshit. Like I was part of a clan or a guild that actually did pretty well for a time. And for me, iDubbbz rule. For me, SOCOM players will know that. For me, the fact that it's gone in its entirety is kind of one of those sad things where it's like, well, fuck, I wish that I could re-experiencing that. And mind you, as an adult now, I guess this is more in line with the topic at hand that we really wanted to try to flesh out in this early reboot pod of like gaming and age, is that sometimes we go back to re-experience something or reignite something or to, I guess, not necessarily validate something with proof, but just because it was a memory for us. So we want to be able to have those memories on demand, which is very in line with today's culture. I want something on demand, video on demand. I want, faster, 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 more, more, more. Right. It's a consumer mentality, and if everything is nurturing that concept, then why doesn't the past also apply to that concept as well? So for me, it's like, well, why can't we have access to it? And then you take into obviously different counterpoints and or different ideas psychologically here as far as game preservation, but like, wouldn't it be nice to not have to remaster and reboot everything, but just have access to it, period?
Tell that to Nintendo, but yes, I agree with you.
So I mean, like, wouldn't it be nice? Like, and I know that is very much a consumer, I want my way and give it to me now idea mindset, where, well, if you're coming out with N64 games on the Switch, why can't I have all the whole 256 whatever compendium on there?
Because it could 100% they could run. Yeah. It would take those are what, like 2 meg game files, so it take 2 seconds to get those thing on.
Right, and I understand that like there are gaming limitations as far as like these games were designed on this console for this controller mindset, and it's like, yes, some of the stuff has to be reworked. Obviously, there has to be money, the revenue somewhere that validates these accommodations to regain something. And I guess more often than not, the consumer is not concerned with the how as much as the why, and the why is or like
when.
Why can't I have it now? So it's the why and the when.
Yeah.
Rather than the how do we get it into those positions. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's like, well, there's more there.
And so the thing I want to talk about, the whole game preservation thing, was that like, so because Nintendo obviously just recently decided that they're going to shut down all the Wii U and the 3DS servers, which is their last hardware generation.
We should play for you together on the Wii U.
I don't have a Wii U.
We'll get you one.
Okay, we could just play on
the Royal Wii.
We could just play on PC. But like, so what I want to talk about that though is like, so imagine that was like, rather than games, we had books, and every generation we burned all the books from the past generation.
I mean, there's like a sociological mentality behind the reason for burning books. So,
okay, so sorry.
While EA is not Nazi Germany,
not
and
yet.
They're looking to stamp out, the lesser.
Sorry, I guess book burning was a bad choice. Okay, so what if it was just like, what if it was like a museums and artwork? Because gaming is a form of art. It is. And we're just like, hey, every generation we're going to slate all the old artworks done by other people. Like, why? I don't see the point of that. I love game preservation. I love emulation. I love all that stuff.
We're touching on many faceted problems and or realities there, because I think you would also put in here, like, at some point once we stop talking about 30s and being old and gaming,
this is about being old. It's all our shit as a kid.
Yeah. We were going to get into like opinions on the current gaming space, and then that would be like DLC and money and costs and all that kind of shit. But this, I guess, is the segue or the bridge into that mindset. And I'm losing my train of thought.
Well, a little too many beers. And no, I get you. So the segue is, so we're talking about game preservation, how games weren't,
diminishing returns.
Going away. Yeah, they're diminishing returns. They're going away. So that was gaming of the past as today. But what are all your thoughts about the current gaming market then? And why would that appeal more than preserving games of the past?
So,
What's
so
hooking
this
you towards the now more than the
the
past?
segue there of diminishing returns and book burning, or the deletion of, it's that there's always perpetual growth, and that mindset doesn't work, and that leads
That's a
into inflation.
capitalistic
That
mindset.
that
Yeah.
works into inflation and capitalism, which is very much a us generational awareness. Is that, unfortunately, in our present times, because of inflation and the housing market and all these other BS, it affects everything else. So like my insurance has gone up more, my, the ability to get into a home has gone up more, the taxes on food is more. So then you also get into the gaming, the virtual space, and it's like this is all marketing, and the whole goal is to generate income. And unfortunately, there's not a sustainable system where essentially something has an intrinsic value and can be measured off of that, because we're charging full game prices for like DLC or something of that. If you really want to like breed into a cantankerous grounds of not making sense, or it being disadvantageous towards us, the consumer, because I mean these companies are still generating income. Um, Without getting into the GameStop stonks, like I was a former GameStop employee at one point, and the whole goal was to like sell the warranty and the membership and all this other BS. But the point is that eventually they got lower and lower on their crew, and it was more of a skeleton shift thing. And it was just like, how can we squeeze the dollar the most for our investors and our shareholders and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, that has very much infected the gaming space, where presently it's all about making more money. And then I think I'd even pulled up some stuff about, before we got into like the games of 2023, which I did want to talk about, was more so the percentage of layoffs in the gaming space right now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
roughly there's 20% in the console area, there's 20% in the publisher,
Well,
there's
and there's
22% in
so
the
many
online, there's
headlines
18%
having
in the
you read
technology.
of where like there's just mass layoffs every single
Right.
week. There's just studios
And
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 industries that are just
and
laying off
that's
people.
the partners of said game developer, of said game industry, of said tech avenue, that's just trying to squeeze more out of the dollar. You know what I mean? So for us on the back end, it's one, we need to become a more educated for sure.
Well, that's not
um
happening. Our education system
yeah,
is
it's
shit.
not, and it's definitely not happening with Gen Z,
Sorry,
unfortunately. Like
uh,
there are the exceptional few, but
I feel bad for them. But here's sorry, I want to do another small side tangent
they're
because I talked
inheriting a
about
broken
this.
world.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we thought we were. They definitely are. But like, I've always been saying that, like, dude, why isn't our education system more revered than it should be? Like, our teachers get paid like fucking 30 grand a year to have the hardest job in the world with no backup, and they can't
Well,
do anything. And like, what the fuck
so
is wrong
so
with that?
so think of the different sectors of existence. Like you have your tech, and you have your pharmacological, or you have your agriculture, you have your medicinal, so on and so forth. Like education is the one industry that's never been scaled up and rebooted as far as in our society, and in the states for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're learning. I feel like kids are more or less learning the same shit, maybe with better technology in place, which is also contradictory, which I think also plays a part into why they're so anti-establishment, and that seems to be even more common. Is the fact is that they have readily available resources that, one, don't provide context, but also deny the very program that they're learning from. Whereas when we grew up, we were kind of force fed this information, like you gotta get a diploma, you gotta go to college, you gotta do all these things. And then we reach this age and we're like, well, I honestly didn't need half of that shit. One, I'm in debt
Do you know how
because
to
of it.
learn cursive? Did you learn cursive and never
Yeah.
use it ever
So
again?
I mean, yeah, I mean, when the world goes like apocalypse now kind of bullshit, then like, yeah, I can write in cursive, and I can get my secret notes to the resistance without issue, for sure. But I mean, we're definitely on the decline, and I think we're spiraling a little bit into a couple different avenues here. But at the core of it, I could see how, what you were saying, education has to come forward, and not forward in a geopolitical, uh, religious zealot, or a mindless, clickbaity kind of, um, what is it, the whole civil rights movement lately, like without getting ourselves already canceled before we even start, It's like, why are we so definitive on terminology? Like, why do we
Oh,
need to keep redefining words
yeah.
when we know what they
Everything's got to be
mean?
socially accepted.
Yeah, we know what they mean. We know what they're implying, and I don't know. I can't speak for you because you're in California, but there's like a certain southwestern hospitality out here in Arizona that's sort of gone away.
There's no
With
hospitality out here. That's for damn sure.
Right, but I mean, like, it's one of those things where like I'm neither assumptive nor am I oppressive, and it's just like I'll treat you well if you then return the same
That goes
respect.
back to our
You know,
generation kind of a
and
thing.
that also is a generational thing, and that also is a work ethic kind of thing where it's just like I grew up thinking that if I work hard I'll get somewhere, and obviously at my age I realized that that doesn't mean shit. I really have to fight for what I want. But
I got a
uh,
small question for you. So, because I don't know, maybe this plays off of just people of our age kind of a thing. Do you have a work face and a personal face?
ooh, are you saying like do I have like a resting bitch face for work and
Well,
a
no, but
are you
does
talking
the
so
persona that
I'm
you have at work and the way that you interact with people at work, is that the same person as the way you talk, treat, and act around people that you are
so
familiar with?
so I'm more outgoing, more charismatic, more intentionally genuine. Um and unfortunately I wouldn't class myself as like extrovert or introvert. I'm an amalgamation of different competing forces at any given time. So it's like if I'm depressed, that affects my mood. If I'm happy, that affects my mood. If I'm full, that affects my mood. If I'm tired, that affects my mood. Like anybody else. But yes, work me and home life me. Home life me is I don't care and I just want to fucking let go and relax and not be judged. Work me is very much I know I'm being judged, so I'm doing everything in my power to try to make that judgment a good judgment.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not quite a different person as much as I'm cognitively aware and or consciously uh trying to fulfill a task or an effort. So it's like I have a goal. My goal is to do right, to be understood, to communicate clearly, to be neither non-intrusive or offensive, and or to accomplish my goal. And to me, that's a W. If I don't accomplish that, I'm not winning, and then I come home feeling less fulfilled.
Right.
Um,
So I feel like that entire idea there is exactly what is missing from a lot of people. I wouldn't say necessarily just Gen Z, but people who grew up with this technology and educational system where they don't have the difference of like, hey, I'm out at work or out at school or whatever, and I
right.
have to act and perform a certain way, and then
Context matters for
yeah,
sure. I mean, like, I once again, not to interrupt you, but like the education is that like they're teaching kids the same stupid shit they taught us, and kids are on the fly able to kind of retract that, and they unfortunately become more entitled by feeling like they have access to information, which is to their benefit and and or their deficit. Um, so the thing is that if I grew up with technology and it was constantly in my face and all I'm doing is this all day, and somebody tried to engage me, I don't I don't feel inclined to be engaged by somebody else because why do I need you when I have this? You know?
yeah,
Um and more often than not what people are telling you is like partial truths. And while what you can acquire on the internet isn't the full truth, it is more or less the truth, I guess, to some degree. So I don't know. Here's a small scenario or like a bubble moment is that I used to my ex and I lived with my ex's cousin, and he's like 10 years younger than me. So I would say that his dating regiment, his understanding of the environment around him, his social skills or his communication skills were very much lacking in comparison to what I was expecting to get out of him. Now, mind you, I'm 30 and he's like brand new 20. So he's not concerned with what I'm thinking about or what I care about or how I care about it. And that's perfectly fine. I understand that there's a time and a place for it. Because when I was 20, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't, I wasn't I mean, I did, but I'm not your conventional 20-year-old, which to base a metric off of and say like this is your average 20-year-old. But still, the point is that like I wasn't as concerned with things that I'm concerned about now. I wasn't as aware of things as I am now.
Right.
I hadn't fully fledged out opinions. I had the beginnings of them. I had the concept of ideas. I had the concept of like what I thought a good person was, or I had the concept of what I thought being like self-fulfillment was. I had the concept of what a good relationship looks like. You know, I had the concept of a lot of ideas of the things that actually make you who you are. But that's part of life. You grow up and, you know, you get a couple bumps and bruises, you get some scars, and then after that, you're smarter for it, you're wiser for it, you're better for it.
Yeah, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Come on.
Yeah, you can essentially make better educated opinions. So the thing is that like my cousin, that cousin more or less, was still figuring out what he wanted to do and what he wanted to be. So to have a conversation with somebody who's already kind of static in what they want and what they need and who they view themselves as is like night and day difference. And that's not saying he's lesser than. It's just that he needs to figure that shit out. And I kind of see like a prolonged experience, I guess, in the generation following of just like they're not really figuring it out because they're lacking a lot of those essential building Legos, so to speak, like those experiences, because
a lot of their time is not in the real world.
Our parents and even us, we're removing a lot of those facets away from them, so they're not able to have the full-fledged experience. So they're not able to be full-fledged people in some manners of
kids aren't even let out anymore. You imagine that growing up, you used to be outside all the time.
So like when we were kids, I don't know. Did you used to like run out until like fucking sundown and then come home?
Yep.
And like, did your parents just kick you out and they're like, make sure you're home before dinner?
Get out and go do something. Yeah. Get out of our hair.
So I mean, and I mean, there's definitely a resurgence of outdoorsiness and or physicalness or hippiness or those kind of qualities in the younger generation for sure. Like, I'm not saying they're just stuck and glued to a screen, but unfortunately, they are growing up with a screen, which is, I guess, the wrong teacher because there's not context. And for us, it was very much a more of a physical element and then technology. So like we were able to balance the two.
Well, and that goes back to what we started in the beginning. It's like we grew up with the rise of technology. We weren't attached to the hip of it like people are these days, where they can't separate, the two. Like that's part of their life. For us, it's like not really.
So I mean, like I don't know. It's not like I have like a message for a viewer base that doesn't exist here and that we're just grandstanding on something, but very much.
Yeah, sorry.
You good?
Yeah.
No, but it's like if there was individuals that I guess are of this category that felt like I guess attacked by that belief or concept, it's like reevaluate your circumstances and environment and then seek out those things that are self-fulfilling. So like that cousin ended up getting in the military and obviously had purpose imposed upon them, but they're much happier for it. But before that, it was just like constant up and down roller coaster of depression and then like gaming and then depression and then gaming and
it's a vicious
bad
cycle,
dating
man.
life.
We've all been there.
And I mean, we've all been there. And I think like every generation experiences a different relationship with people socially, and then a different relationship with relationships, and then like a different relationship with friendships. And for me, it's like I don't have a lot of my old friendship basis from school anymore, but I never over prioritized that. You know what I mean? I wasn't overly concerned with the social aspect. But the problem is that I guess I matured much later, and then I applied that concept to fucking streaming, where I'm like, everybody is my family, and we're all here together, and we're all in it together, and I'm gonna help boost up and put somebody on my shoulders so they can reach the next level, and we're all gonna climb together. And then I found out very much that it was everyone v everyone. Is everyone?
It's a late lesson learned.
Yeah, a late lesson learned, but I did learn the lesson. And the thing is that I don't know. It's just. If you want to encapsulate the generational thing, it's like it's a lot of these late lessons that just are never coming. So it's like I think that's why there's so much judgment from our generation. It's
It's,
just we're
I think a
watching
lot of
people
it is,
flounder when we feel like they shouldn't. I
but
don't
I
know.
feel like that's every generation looking down. Is like we're like we know the lessons that they have
Yeah,
yet to learn. I just think now it's getting harder and harder to learn life lessons.
it is. And then yeah, technology, misinformation, accessibility doesn't necessarily mean like
Accurate.
finite truth. Yeah, current, correct. I don't know. Are you looking at time here?
Yeah, I mean we're just hit 2 hours, so I mean I know we
Okay.
we kind of branched away from
Yeah,
everything we wanted to talk about.
you had a goal in mind. So I mean, like, do we just want to like speed through shit?
No, I think we should save it for next time. I think this is a good place to
A
call it, and
continuation.
then yeah, to do a continuation. I think this is a good one.
Let's.
But like I said, we're always gonna branch off into random fucking topics because
We
that's just
have.
how it goes.
I think we have one main big topic, and I think that I oriented it in a way that can be streamlined.
Which one is that?
Our most recently played and our backlog.
Oh, that's a good thing to end this on.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I think we can end with like a tit for tat, yay nay
Okay.
kind of experience.
So what have you been playing? What's up with you? You still playing Destiny?
Fuck, dude, no, I want to. That's actually that question stresses me out and gives me some anxiety. There's the Halloween event right now. I haven't done week 1. Week 2 technically ends tomorrow. There's going to be going for another third week, so I got a bunch of shit to grind and catch up on. I don't know if that's even going to happen. Honestly, I started playing the Ascent. I was playing Heavenly Bodies and actually streamed it. Not that anybody watched. Not that it matters, but I played Heavenly Bodies. That was a Sony PS4, PS5 game that also is PC, and there's a way to innovate forward. So we've been using what is it called? It's called program, please. Parsec. Have you used Parsec before?
No. What's Parsec? Is that like an emulator?
So Parsec lets you share your game like IP location, whatever, and let somebody else log into your settings. So like you ever play a game online currently where you have co-op options, but it's only local co-op.
Yeah.
So basically somebody could port in and be your
Oh, it's
local
like a
co-op.
Hamachi thing.
Yeah, so it's like
Gotcha.
it's not quite a X-Link Kai, it's not fully Hamachi, but because I mean Hamachi and X-Link Kai and all that stuff was very much a you connecting to a server base, somebody else connecting to the server base, and you playing together.
Yeah, like
Which I
that
guess
was like a
the
pseudo
root,
local.
yeah, the root of it was pseudo local, but this is like full on. Somebody is controlling part of my computer, and I'm also controlling part of my computer. So it's like
Gotcha. Okay.
having somebody like so plugging two controllers up, except one's virtual.
Gotcha.
So I've been playing Heavenly Bodies, and that's a game
cool.
where you use your controller and your sticks. So you ever play Surgeon Simulator, where you have like
I've played
wonky
Trauma Center.
controls?
Oh,
Okay.
surgeons. Oh yeah, I know Surgeon Simulator.
So-
Yeah, it's
so-
like
so
it's
like those
co-op for surgeons.
Those
Got it.
games where you're like moving the mouse and the keyboard, and you're like your movement is like
Yeah,
wrong. So basically, like it's the same thing with a controller, where like the sticks control your arms and the buttons control your grasp, and you know the back bumpers control your feet, and you're just like in space trying to float around and swim and repair a space station. It's actually really fun. I had a
Gotcha.
blast with that.
Okay.
So there's that. I started playing Pikmin 4.
How's
And
that?
by starting, I mean like I literally did the intro mission in bed, and then I fell asleep
Oh,
because I'm
okay.
old. That was it was late at night, and I've been trying to like build up the initiation to play it, and I haven't. I just got Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and all
Oh, I
the
heard
reviews.
everyone said that one's great.
Yeah, all the reviews are like, this is the spiritual successor to Mario 3 and 2 and platforming and whatever. I can confirm that it is in fact that good. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Probably put like 2 hours into it with a girlfriend. That's definitely a good home co-op game. I feel like co-op got away from us,
Mhm.
and that was once a staple for our gaming upbringing. I got Ark, the new shit, and
What do you mean you had to get Ark because they canceled all the old Ark?
oh, did they cancel it?
Yeah, you didn't hear about that? They shut down
No.
all the old Ark servers and old Ark game. You have to
Oh,
convert to
wow.
Ark 2.
Not Ark 2, but Ark Ascended, whatever. So
Isn't
it's
that
like,
Ark 2?
no.
No?
Ark 2 is still technically its own thing. So there's Ark Survival Evolved and all the expansions that came out, and then there's a gap, and then
Ark
there's
Ascended.
Ark Ascended, which is basically Unreal 5 arc.
Oh, okay. Maybe
Starting back
that's still
from the
what I'm thinking
beginnings.
of. Yeah. So it's
And
still
then
Arc, but
arc
they
2 isn't even out yet. So
right. So
that's projected
okay.
in the future.
That's what I'm thinking of though. But
Okay.
they canceled all the old Arc, and now everyone has to transfer over to Arc
I did not
Ascended.
know that they canceled it.
Yeah.
Over here I was thinking like, oh, everybody wants to get back into Arc. That's cool. I guess I'll get into Arc. But I
Yeah.
didn't know
So
that old Arc was out.
yeah, they killed it. So they killed all the mods and all the servers and all the stuff and all the time people have spent into the original Arc. And now they're forcing everyone to play the new Arc, which is why it's got such mixed criticism reviews. Not that the game is bad. In fact, I've heard nothing but good things about the new Arc. Like,
I've
it
been
looks
playing it and I feel like I'm
gorgeous.
having the same experience that I had like 10, 14 years ago when original Arc came out. And it's like
But it
kind of
looks
wonky,
better,
kind of
right?
janky.
But
Does it
yeah.
play better? No.
Well, that's different. Look better and play better is different.
It's like we put it in Unreal 5, amazing. And it's like, well, it plays like shit on like 80% of the cards. So you have to dumb down your settings, and it's almost worse than the actual old Arc settings that have now been optimized.
Right.
So it's like starting from ground zero. It's rough.
That's fair. That's fair.
I've been playing Diablo 4. I was playing hardcore mode. Did not play season 1, but played pre-season 1. Now I'm playing season 2. It's okay. I've died a few times and lost my characters. That's rough. And then take another break. As alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, have
One
fun.
more. That's all I got. One more. All right.
Look at me with a. I was gonna say, look at me with a tight little prostate. I've held it in the whole time.
FYI, I drink about 2 to 3 liters of water a day. I had a full Powerade before we even started, and was polishing it off. I've had 1, 2 beers since, so my body is just like in expel mode.
Gotcha.
I'm good, I promise. I'm not suffering from any ailments that I'm aware of in that area.
Fair enough.
Not yet.
You're close to needing to get your prostate examined. Yeah. The time to be alive.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay, so we're talking about Diablo 4.
So you're Diablo
hardcore
4,
mode.
yeah.
And then what else do we got here? I've been playing some Call of Duty, the Halloween shit.
Okay.
I've only gotten back into Call of Duty in the last year, so this is like my first year.
Modern Warfare 2 and 3, or
correct. So my first year back in MW2 and then MW3 beta, essentially since the last Call of Duty I played was World at War.
Okay, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. So I've been out of the COD race the whole time. So I'm not like COD degenerate, fucking retard brain, unable to pay my taxes, and with child support. So I think very little of your atypical COD player. I was playing Remnant 2 at the beginning of the year. I was playing Baldur's Gate. I've got about almost 200-ish hours into Starfield, and I stopped because base building killed me.
Really? Is that bad? I got about 8 hours into it, and I was like, so here's my problem. So
did you play at launch, or have you played since patches?
I've played at launch.
Okay, so since patches, it's gotten better, especially if you don't have to mod in a NVIDIA DLSS whatever.
Yeah, I did that
adjustment because they didn't originally have.
Yeah, it was just AMD proprietary thing.
Yeah, so it was garbagey. Yeah, I think that's me as far as gaming.
You play a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I got Hogwarts Legacy. Didn't touch it, but I bought it also for the girlfriend so she'd play. I bought Dead Space Remaster. Didn't touch it. Because I even have a collector's Dead Space thing over here. I've considered myself a big Dead Space fan. I just don't have time.
Dead Space. You hear that they're gonna redo 3? Like, not like remake it, but like change it.
That's in recent, like that's literally the last 2 days or last 24 hours of game news. As far as them talking about like we should have done it differently and would like the chance to do it differently. So there's no confirmation of it yet, but I would almost like to see the Dead Space remastered series from 1 all the way through 3, so including 2. 2 was amazing, and I think 2 would be better. Well, 2 was the crowning gem of Dead Space
because the combat was so much better. Like it was still horror.
Dead Space 1 established horror. Dead Space 2 established concept with horror and action. Dead Space 3 was mostly was mostly just action, and only towards the very end was it horror. It had good story beats, but it had poor execution. And then on top of that, unless you played that game collaboratively, like co-op, then the whole experience was is that one person was Isaac and basically now fucking sane, and then somebody was playing Carver and seeing a bunch of shit that Isaac didn't see. So it's like I played that with my brother, or my really good friend that I call a brother, and basically the whole time he's like, "Bro, you see this shit? I ain't going in that room." I'm like, "I'm fine. Let's go in that room." And he's like, "No, don't go in there." That's like,
See, I only
okay.
played that game single player.
See, it's a whole different experience. Like maybe that could be a thing for us. We could essentially, I don't know. Obviously, we'd have to play separately for Dead Space 1 and 2, but to play 3, we could play together.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I've never played Dead
Yeah.
Space 3 as a co-op at all. I've only ever gone
3,
through it solo, and it was just like whatever.
yeah, so 3 with the expansion, I think is great. 3 without the expansion is missing a lot of like contextual stuff that makes the game make more sense. And then once again, it's the whole like, bro, no, I'm not going in there. There's
Right, it's the
regenerators thing
dialogue
right
between
there.
you people out of
Yeah.
the
So
game.
like you're enriching the game, which couch co-op obviously, doesn't really achieve anymore. Um so those are my main games. I mean, I can go down the games that I got, and obviously I haven't touched. I still have Tears of the Kingdom backlogged.
I stopped playing that. Dude,
Why?
Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom just don't do it for me. I love Zelda games, but I like them as dungeon crawler games. They're great dungeon
Okay.
crawlers. And Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild being so open and stuff just feels like pretty generic open world survival games because the dungeons aren't great. They're short. The bosses are really simplistic. And most of the time you're spent crafting weapons and making food and traveling. And I'm like,
So
that's
Breath
not
of
what
the
I want in a
Wild
Zelda game.
for me was like the pinnacle moment. Tears of the Kingdom that I only barely started and obviously don't have enough in to formulate a good, valid opinion on. It's it's enough of the same, but supposedly different that I'm just not being hooked by it. Does that make sense?
Right, because
Like,
it's the
hey,
same
let's
game, but a little
let's
bit
revisit
different.
this, but let's take away all your progress. And here's a couple more gimmicks. And it's just like
Basically.
I just haven't had the time to really involve myself in it. I'm sure that I would love it once fully playing.
Well, so Tears
I
of the Kingdom is basically just Breath of the Wild, but you have different
Oh, with a ceiling
tools.
in a basement.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's literally the same game, but your tools are different. So rather than have like your time lock, your bomb, and like your other thing, like your
Mhm.
tablet, you have like three different weapons or
Right.
things to toy with, and that's basically the whole game.
The first 2 or 3 hours in the main Sky Island, and then part of like landing down and exploring the castle, I enjoyed thoroughly. But it also wasn't enough to hook me and be like, all right, I got to play this. And then I think there was other games at the time too, especially like Destiny, where I was still trying to stay current in a live service, where that competes with the ability to enjoy a full flesh game.
Well, right,
Um,
because Tears of the Kingdom is also a long game. Like you're gonna dump 100 hours into it, and that's a lot of investment
right.
required.
I got Wild Hearts, which is I think I have a whole list here. So we got RE4, which is a reboot remaster.
I've
I
never
didn't
played
get into
Resident Evil
RE4.
4.
It's good. It was good, but it was good on GameCube. I don't know if it's good now. Obviously visually looks good, but I was never so smitten, and I would feel like you're more adoptive of the speed runner mentalities than I am. Like I'm old school speedrunner. You're very much I don't want to say new school speedrunner, but you're very much present
Basically,
speedrunner.
yeah.
Um, so like for me, it's like challenge and time, and then once I've done it, I'm done. And then for you, it's like I gotta continue to perfect the art, or it's more of like a relevancy thing. I don't know. That's just my take. I'm not saying that's what it is for you.
It's honestly relevancy is a weird way to put it, but it's more like I'm always fighting against myself. Is the thing.
Right. So you don't feel inclined by the competition that exists in
I
the
don't care about the competition, especially
speedrunner
like if you go to like
community.
Monster Hunter
You don't have a
specifically.
rival.
No, I mean I like a lot of the other like
The
gunner speedrunners, like Faye who does bow speedruns, or my
Mhm,
LBG, or Tatsu Taffy who does
mhm.
heavy bowgun stuff. I love seeing other competitor runs, and I'm
See,
only ever.
I had a rival.
Mhm.
So for me, like that was my mainstay. I don't have rivals anymore. So until I find somebody that I equate on that level, like I really am not inclined to speedrun.
Yeah, see, and me, I don't care about that because I never speed run to like get world records or beat anyone else or anything like that. I'm always like I'm fighting myself mentally where I'm like, oh, I could have done better. Why are you shit? You should have dodged there. And especially when I go back and
Right.
like watch like my videos
So
when I want to upload them, and I'm like, oh, you were fucking shit. Go back and do
that's
that again.
I can see that, agree with that, acknowledge that. That's very much a me to me. But then I also need. I'm not saying like I need a rival like to be world's best. I need a rival in the sense of I need like the camaraderie there, which
Right?
like
No, I 100% get that. You
more
need someone to bounce
more
off
aligns to like
ideas
old
and
Monster Hunter.
strategies
Right.
and yeah,
Like
and just
I need somebody
compete
that's
with.
pushing me. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the problem is I've never had that. I haven't
Right. I mean,
because people
different,
see it
just
differently. People
differences. Yeah.
like that's the thing I really don't like about Monster Hunter community, which we're gonna get back to that, is that
Uh,
it's there's no camaraderie there. It's everyone is in it for
it's
themselves.
gone.
Everyone
Well,
is just
individualism infected Monster Hunter in the late third, early fourth gen of Monster Hunter, and it's been that since then. So everything about collaborative play and or community unity is gone. And
yeah. There
I mean,
still
there's a
are
lot of
some
things. There's a lot
decent.
of things that are that are not really retaining a fence line there for.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
We'll get into
shame.
it another time.
Yeah, yeah. We'll do that.
Another time. So you didn't get into RE4. I still gotta find my chainsaw controller because that thing's worth like $600 and I gotta sell it shit because I don't
Is
fucking
that an
care.
actual thing? A chainsaw controller for
Yeah,
RE for like the Wii?
yeah,
No
for the GameCube.
way.
Yeah, there's GameCube controller. There's also a PlayStation version. They're pretty dope. I have one somewhere in a box, and I'm very much of the mindset of like I don't care enough about Resident Evil, and actually kind of have some bad history with Resident Evil to the point where I'm like, I'll just sell that for money.
Okay,
Because I don't care.
okay.
So I got, what is it? Tears of the Kingdom. We already talked about that. Diablo 4. We already talked about that. They dropped the ball big time, the company, and then it seems like they're trying to come back from it. Whatever. Starfield, new IP. They fell flat, but at the same time, it's good, but it's not. But
That's the most middling thing about Starfield discussions is that it's always the same. It's Bethesda games. That's exactly what it is. There's nothing new. There's nothing innovative. It's not bad because everyone loves Bethesda games, but it's
it's
also
enough of the same for you to be happy with it or content with it, but it's also
it's something to
enough
get hyped
different to
about.
where, yeah, like the I don't know if it's so much marketing as much as development. This is a development problem for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. They're like, we're going to
Dead
use
Space,
the same engine we've used for 12 years.
yeah. Dead Space Remaster, we already talked about that. Alan Wake 2. I don't know if you were ever an Alan Wake kind of person.
I
I know that
wasn't. I've heard a lot of good things about the second one, though. I'm
there was a
interested.
game on Sony specifically that was like a shooter game. I can't remember the name of the fucking game where the girl's like in a different dimension. It's mostly a red screen. No,
Don't
no. All
know.
right, it came out a couple years ago. Anyways, that was like somehow loosely connected to Alan Wake. Ooh, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I own the first one, but I never played it, and I own it on like 3 different services. And I think we were talking about like doing like a
How many
seven-layer
times
dip
have you bought a
podcast.
game?
How many times have you bought a game on a different system or different IP or not IP? What'd you call that?
Platform or
EULA, different user agreement.
yeah,
Um, Hogwarts Legacy, bought it for the
girlfriend games.
girlfriend.
Yeah,
Yep, bought it for myself, didn't touch it.
Final
But
Fantasy
but I did
16.
log into Twitch to get my shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's is that 16 XIV? No, that's 14.
14. Do
Yeah,
you play 14?
I do play 14,
I don't play 14.
but just to keep my house. I stopped playing.
Just thinking it's that important. I
The
play. I
land
log into
value.
this
Look,
MMO
if
so I
can't
don't lose my
afford a
land plot.
house in real life, then Final Fantasy 14, God damn it, is where I will own land, and that's good enough for me.
That's fair, I guess.
I heard 16 tanked the ship for Capcom, and they've been trying to recover since. I don't know
Well,
if
but
you're
it's like, but 16. I think it was
the
marketed
narrative.
towards the Western audience, and everyone
The
on the
narrative.
Western side liked it, but it sold like crap because nobody in Japan wanted it. Which is like,
The narrative. It was
yeah,
bad. Yeah, it killed it.
was it? Okay.
It was like one of those like infant
It's
crib
Game of
situations.
Thrones.
Pikmin 4, kind of already talked about it. Started it, haven't really gone forward. Controls seem different. You got a little dog called Poochie or something. That's interesting.
I've never played a Pikmin game. Like seriously, I think I've only like rented them as a kid or
Oh, they're
whatever.
so good.
And that's it. I like
It
Pikmin.
is. I
I've
don't want
never
to call it
gone
like
through them all.
I don't want to call it a life-changing experience, but it's definitely one of those games where
They're different.
there's
Like they
there's
hit
there's
differently.
there's games that happen blank times in a generation. So like, have you ever played? This is not on the 2023. Have you ever played Red Faction,
Yeah,
the Mars one? So that taught you
yeah.
about structural stability,
That
and then
game's got the
also
best destruction of any game that's ever
right,
been
right.
made.
So like, you look at the world in a different lens after playing a game like that. You're like, I could fuck up that
Yeah,
building.
it's
Not
called
that you're
disappointment
not.
after
Yeah.
that.
Well, true. Okay. So I mean, what games going forward? They're just not as good, or don't retain something,
They're
or what
not
do you mean?
like, well, the destructibility of like Red Faction was literally the best gaming has ever seen, and even like
Right.
Battlefield and stuff nowadays don't even come close to what
Well,
Red Faction
even
did.
even that, but I mean, like so for me as a former game art student or flunky or whatever you want to call me, and also understanding aspects of architecture, that game did something to educate you that no other game has done since, and it did it in such a simple way. And if you were to ever go into like game developments, education, or that field, you would find that there's certain games that succeed in ways that other games can't imagine because they're able to convey not only a concept and idea, but you're able to translate that information tangibly to the player. And then, like I said, for going forward, you don't really, you don't really. Okay,
Because
so
I
we
think
just
we're
talked
get
about
Pikmin. Yeah, so we just got
yeah,
through Pikmin,
talk
and we're
Pikmin, Armored Core. So I feel like that's a game that you played,
I
right?
I haven't yet, and I feel really bad because I
You
love
haven't
Armored
played it?
Core. I love Souls games. I love Armored Core. I love
I was gonna
FromSoft.
say that's right up your fucking alley.
I played a lot of Armored Core as a kid too, but I haven't played it. I don't know what it is. I get like, maybe it's just because I'm old, but I get like massive anxiety trying to play and learn new games and like get into games, which is why I keep falling back into playing the old games that I'm already familiar with. I love Armored Core. I haven't fucking started it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I recycle games, so I have not gotten Armored Core. My brother's interested in it, probably buy it for him, but other than that, not my cup of tea. I got out of mech. I like mech anime. I like mech concepts. I like mech in sci-fi, but I don't necessarily care much for playing mech games
See,
because they're usually poorly developed.
and I don't. Well, that's fucking true. It's like I don't
Yeah.
like mecha anime
Sorry to
stuff.
stab at the heart.
No, it's fine. Just like I'm really big into BattleTech, and I love BattleTech and MechWarrior. But the
Mhm.
MechWarrior games have been poorly handled in the past decade or so, and
Right.
they're
I
really
don't,
bad.
it's like even the Gundam games, which have some appeal and nostalgia and like memorabilia, where it's just like all the different from different series and whatnot, usually kind of handled with like the Dynasty Warriors esque value, where it's just
I
like
know. It's like a C
here's this
tier
cool
game.
cut through it, one cut, here,
Yeah.
oh cool, break it, shoot it, bust it. It's like I, it's hard to replicate anime and or fiction in a game, I guess, without doing it proper justice. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not the same. They're not the same. It's like Dragon Ball games. Why? That's
True.
my
They
take.
crank those out every year.
Baldur's Gate 3. Started playing it. Was doing a campaign with some coworkers, having a lot of fun. Got it for the girlfriend. Obviously, I think she explored all the sexy routes as much as you can. Have you?
Yeah, I've got about 200 hours into it. I have
Oh
played
shit.
3 different playthroughs. I did one with Jin as my first playthrough, one with my girlfriend, and I'm going back. I did one with myself as well, just a solo playthrough. And I'm going back and doing the second playthrough with my girlfriend now. So
Okay.
I have played it a lot. And that's the
I
thing I
think
was going to say about Starfield earlier is like after playing Baldur's Gate, going back to Starfield, I immediately like was talking to like NPCs and doing like dialogue and quest lines, and I'm like, I don't
you're
care
of
about
that
anything you guys
branching
say.
tree. Yeah.
Yeah, like
So like the density of organic interaction, the density of story, the I guess just the actualization of blossoming story, like conceptually, is just not there. So like Starfield is very much akin to a Fallout, very much akin to a Skyrim. There's a finite level, and there's obviously a lore in the background for sure,
mhm.
but at some point it falls flat because it's not like anything new is being discovered, and it's not like your choices are like oh so innovative. Now, mind you, Baldur's Gate is dabbling on the linear scale too,
It
but at
is
least
like
it's still
it,
it's linearity, but within a more expansive range than what you're gonna find in a Bethesda IP.
correct because it's like after playing it through a couple times, I'm very much attuned with how little choices you actually have in that
Hmm.
game. Like it's not as crazy open as people might think.
Right.
But the just the skill of the voice actors and the script itself of the dialogue is really what sells the story and the questing and the progression more than anything. It's not so much the
Oh,
substance and the content that's there, it's the way that it's portrayed is just really amazing.
yeah. It does feel millennial to millennial, not millennial to Gen Z port.
It's fair.
Take a stab in the dark. Um,
It's,
Dead Island 2. This is like the same genre of games like Final Fantasy 15 with Noctis and the Bros that was essentially back from Kingdom 2 or Kingdom Hearts 2 era of PS2 where they're like, hey, we're gonna come out with this game, and it just never happened. And then it got like they started up and they stopped. And then they changed labels and they changed
I'm
whatever
surprised
and
he
they
even came
stopped.
out.
So like seeing the cinematic at the beginning is it's probably one of the better cinematics I've seen in modern gaming. Visually, the game doesn't look like what I feel like a decade plus should equal out to. It's not.
Well, it's not. It really is. Have
Yeah,
you played it much?
I have not touched it.
Okay, I played a
I've
little
I've
bit of
almost
it.
I've almost I'm like on the mindset of just like I don't want to touch this game because it I lost my incentive a long time ago.
Fair, fair.
Like how many times can they come up with a game like even Final like well I guess dated conversation Final Fantasy 15 while good not as good as it could been, and while the story is interesting the story very clearly has cuts in the story where it's just like I think you meant to do more or I think we were supposed to return to the city but the city was never fleshed out so no city now
Gotcha.
and it's like I think we were supposed to have like a big bad here but that's not there anymore so we're just sort of meandering around in the car so it's like missing gaps where because of the I guess the problems and you can't really like I know like in the real world right now we're dealing with like a writer strike and with like cinema and movies and TV shows and things like that. But
I
I
don't
mean
think that would
there's
have
equivalent
affected a lot of games,
right
mostly because. Oh, go
there's an
ahead.
equivalent of that but in the gaming realm. And I think that's like when these games get stuck in hiatus and they're just like, I don't know, are we gonna back it with money or
Right, the
like,
story kind
you
of
know,
falls
is
apart. It's not.
Yoshi P doing it or is Naorma or it's like I don't know. Anyways, um Super Mario Bros. Wonder, I think we touched about that early on.
I'm gonna
I,
play it.
I
I'm
still
gonna
got
pick it up.
I still got more to put into it. Worth.
Yeah. And like, I'm
Um
a big critic of Nintendo as a whole, but I appreciate good games when they come out, and I've seen and heard nothing but amazing things from Wonder, so I'll probably pick it up.
I'm excited. Yeah, so I'm playing that, but I'm also excited for Mario RPG, the remake.
Yeah,
That was like one of the childhood staples for me. So I definitely have to get that, especially if it's just new. I put Wolong on here. I think that's like
I
that Kung Fu monkey game that like everybody was like praising visually like in 2020
yeah,
and then
something like
fell off
that.
the market
I
and
think
then
it's
now it's
finally
back.
coming out. It still
I
looks
haven't
great, but I haven't seen much about it. I mean, I'm interested because it's apparently obviously it looks like a Souls-like game, which I'm into, but I
how
didn't even play the other Wolong that just came out because there's
so
two Wolongs.
there are games that occasionally come around where you're just like, oh man, it looks so good, but then the game just falls flat on itself outside of looking good. So like for me, that's kind of like Black Desert Online, where that was innovative for the time, but it was also trying to innovate for like 10 years where they're like, look at these character models and how much you can edit them.
But the
And
gameplay
then
was shit.
but the gameplay was shit, one, combat was kind of shit too. The world, while nice, there was like some sort of motion fluidity in the game that just didn't feel right. And then beyond that, I don't know, it's like a small ramble tangent. Um, it just kind of ended up being another, I guess, Chinese Korean IP that felt like a Chinese Korean IP,
Right.
and
Overly
we just don't.
monetized the way that they do
Yeah,
that
and
kind of
we
thing.
just
And
don't really associate much value in the West on those kind of games. So it's like they're sort of dead in the in at birth.
fair. Yeah.
Um, Wild Hearts, we already talked about that.
Rip Wild Hearts, man.
Bro, that's such a sad story. Sea of Stars is an indie. I saw that you put notation in here. Like we were originally supposed to talk about MTX, Battle Passes, DLC, early access, all that kind of shit. We can touch up on that like in a proper pod for that topic alone, since that'll easily lead into umpteenth hours of fun.
Right.
Um for everyone. But I think your focus was is that you wanted to express the difference between indie and
Well, Yeah, the indie
AAA.
scene, especially
Yeah.
in the past decade or so, have you noticed how crazy good the indie scene has picked up, especially with CSRs? No, no, okay,
So of this listing that I put of 2023 games, you'll notice that only two are marked in red, and those are the
right
two.
for
Those are
indie
the two
games.
indie candidates that are the most acknowledged and visible in the gaming space this year, which would be Dredge and Sea of Stars.
But it's like, but what do
And
you consider indie? Like, because I consider indie anything that's not like even double A studios, like something like what was it,
here's
Setsuna?
a question for a question. Do you consider No Man's Sky to be an indie game?
See, and that's hard because it was more of a crowd-funded game, wasn't it?
It was an indie game from an indie developer
Yeah,
originally,
because it was 11
which then was
people.
licensed and pushed forward by Sony. So Sony
Correct.
picked it up and backed it with some money, but ultimately the initial date of it was supposed to be indie by indie.
I want to say
And
yes, just due to the
where it's
size of
at
the studio.
now, where it's at now is much more akin to a AAA because of the amount of content they put out, how much money they netted from the initial success, which then they put back into the system. And mind you, I'm not over here with like the revenue police and like this is how much they use and this is percentage and whatever. So like I really cannot speak to that overall outcome, but very much they are more on the AAA side of the spectrum than they are indie now compared to some of the indie games that are coming out now. Would you
I,
say that?
I guess that's fair. I was always just going under the impression that, when they originally launched, they were an 11-man team of an entirely
Mhm.
new studio. So I always
Yeah, they
gave
were
them
tiny as
that
shit.
title. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were tiny in that respect. Um, so I put down Sea of Stars. I got a buddy who's playing it. He seems to be enjoying it. I enjoy watching him play it. It's a good experience. Not exactly gonna name drop just yet as far as other content makers and all that stuff. We'll wait a while. Um, Redfall. That's another Bethesda IP, and that fell flat
Yeah.
hard. And
And then
I
they
was a
tried to
victim.
revive it.
I was a victim of that bus.
Oh,
Like,
you're trying to get in on
so,
that?
well, no. So I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, isn't this game that I saw like a couple years ago, and it looks really good, and it could be fun?" And I bought it, and I think I bought my bro into it. And I was waiting for launch night. I played launch night. The game was repetitive and dead by like the first city. So like 2.5 hours, 3 hours into the game, it was just like, "This is it. This is what I just dropped." Like
That's the
80
whole
bucks on.
game. Yep.
That's it. Like, oh hey, it reminds me of, so I get mad in modern Bethesda games where I walk up to a house and it's all boarded up and it's basically just an asset placed. It's just a block. It's based.
Right.
I might as well think about it as a rectangle or a square. You know what I mean? It's a shape. The the,
Pretty
the
much.
intent the intents and purpose from a distance is to imply both perspective and aesthetic and or value. And then I get up to it and it's the lowest version of that. So Redfall is a game of a city that is made up of valueless homes and or landscape. So it's just like, why?
There's no meaning anywhere.
Yeah, it's like, oh, could somebody come out of this house? No. Is somebody in the house? No. Is there somebody around the house? No. You know, it's just channeling me into a direction where there's a static fight that's been planned every time. I
Right.
haven't played it since the any new additions, and obviously you can tell even from what little reboot that they have made, it's minimal effort and too late, too sad, too bad.
What's crazy is that I think like yesterday or the day before, this like active player base for Redfall was like 13 on the Steam charts, and there's games that are like 20 years old that have like a couple hundred players still, and it's like, what is that really saying about the game?
Yeah, I mean, from Bethesda IP to Bethesda IP, you look at like Skyrim, you look at Fallout's, you look at even Starfield, and there's no, hands down, same formula, but better executed than what Redfall got. And I'm pretty sure that Redfall is part of a smaller aspect of Bethesda, so like businesses within businesses kind of thing.
Right, kind of like Dishonored and stuff.
Yeah,
Like it's a company
but
within the company.
yeah, so I mean, it's not a full Bethesda wipe, but at the same time, they greenlit this shit. They greenlit this shit to go, be sellable. They greenlit this shit to be made. At any point in time, they could have said, "Nope, sorry, take it back to formula."
Right.
There's plenty of games that
But
are
they were under the pressure of like, hey, we need to get something out for
yeah.
whatever stocks, revenues,
I
quarterly
don't know if it's
sales,
a
and
if that's a Sony or an Xbox, that's another big topic that we wanted to get into that we'll probably just have to start at the next pod of just like console wars in the 21st century kind of shit. Like, because
Yeah,
that's
because
what
it's
we're back
really
to it.
ramping back
We're
up
back to it.
again.
Yeah, we're back to
Yeah.
it. It's shitty, but we're back to it.
Yeah.
Octopath 2, did you play?
I started it. I haven't played it. Here's the thing I have about Octopath. I love the first one. I played about 100 hours into it, finished all the storylines and all that stuff. Octopath 2 is the exact same game, but the problem I have with it is that they didn't improve the sprite animations at all. And that's one of my biggest complaints, is that everything is so static feeling.
Okay, so I could see how like it could be boring to see the same thing years later. But at the same, I guess there's the continuity of it. Like, does that
But
I don't know,
what
does
continuity?
well, the continuity of the styling, like,
I guess. But that's the problem is like the styling
are
was
the
fine.
stories there?
They're pretty
'Cause
much the same.
Okay,
It's the same character classes, the same general story. The merchant's about money and stuff. The priest is about the cathedral and the church and shit. And
it's a fucking wash. All right.
it's basically the same game again. And I was hoping for more. And like, if you really like the first one, you're probably gonna like the second one. But I wanted more because it's literally the same game twice with no improvements.
Okay. Are you a Sony guy? You got a PS5?
I don't have any consoles. I'm a PC
Okay.
gamer.
So you didn't play Forspoken.
No, I watched that train
PC
wreck from
port.
afar. Yeah.
So that was like it seemed reminiscent of the wide ocean but depth of a shallow pond where it's like
It's also why I don't like game trailers.
you have this big world, but the NPCs are bland, the environment's kind of bland,
The questing's boring, the dialogue is boring. Yeah, the gameplay is pretty one-dimensional.
Yeah, fuck Forspoken. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sonny. Drop the ball. Liza P. I think I saw you playing that.
I did play it. I'm a big Souls player. I love I wouldn't say I love Liza P. I liked the game.
How's it stack up? Is it? It looks like it's got more Bourne's aesthetic, but it's got.
I don't like the this. People are saying that like, oh, this is the Bloodborne we never got. It's something like Bloodborne. I don't like people make that assumption.
I love Bloodborne's aesthetic. So when I say that, I say like theming, world building,
so good.
Lore, context. Like, Bloodborne to me is a one in a generation title, even though like it even stands out in the Soulsborne like category.
For sure.
So like people are like, oh, like Dark Souls. It's a nostalgic moment, and then Dark Souls 2. Everybody fucking hates Dark Souls 2, or at least that's what I feel like the consensus is Dark Souls 2 lacked comparatively to Dark Souls 1, and then Dark Souls 3 I think tried to recover from Dark Souls 2. So obviously it fixed some systems, but at that point, like, what you're just rehashing a lot of the same concepts, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Bloodborne was unique though.
So for me, Bloodborne was the one entry. Bloodborne and Nioh, that series, which then I think that 2 went in a completely different direction. But the first one for me was good. So Liza P.
The Liza P. I like it, but it's not Bloodborne. I don't think of it Bloodborne. It plays a lot like Sekiro. It's heavy into parrying, where you have to parry every single thing. But the gameplay is so slow. It is so incredibly slow.
Heavy into parrying. So I feel like Sekiro kind of takes us back to like the God of War, action interaction button prompts. Pretty
much.
Do you feel like Liza P is that, or do you feel like Liza P is genuinely parrying? Because I feel like there's a difference between parrying in Dark Souls and parrying in Sekiro.
No, it's parry Sekiro, where it's like, hey, if I don't parry, I like perfect parry, I'm gonna get killed in 2 hits. You have to.
Is there gear or mechanics or weapons?
The gear is pretty linear. The weapons are pretty basic. Like I
saw a big like wrench head. And then
so the thing about Liza P is like it's got a bunch of weapons, and like the whole gimmick of the weapon system is that you can disassemble the head from the handle and put them into different stuff. So you can have like the wrench head on like a lance stick, so you can poke with a wrench, or you can put the wrench on like a dagger handle. And
the creativity of a paper bag that Monster Hunter World came out of.
I guess because it's like, but the system is so bad, like it's so poorly implemented, and like because the scaling of how your stat scale is dependent on it's entirely on the handle, so you only want certain handles for certain things, and then the weapon head determines like all your slashing and blunt movesets, but you have to make sure that the handle matches that, or you get less damage, and it's like there's like no actual good combinations, and then boss weapons turn out to be just better than everything else regardless.
Going back to previous remarks, Dead Space 3 is probably the best gun game that Dead Space has ever seen with the combinations of gun building.
I like Dead
Just
Space
saying.
3, but I like Dead Space 2 more, to be honest. I really like Dead Space
Dead,
2's combat.
Dead Space 2 has a better leveling up tech tree and or interaction, but Dead Space 3 has a better weapon building
See
facility.
again, I'll have to go back and play Dead
Yeah.
Space 3 because that's the least one I'm
We'll do
familiar
it.
with. But
We'll do it.
yeah. But anyway,
Remnant
so
2.
sorry. So Lies of
Remnant
P,
2.
it's good. It's not
Okay.
great. Everyone's hyping it up to be like the next big thing, but it's whatever. It's
I'm
fine.
not gonna get it.
Okay.
Nay for me.
Remnant 2, that's been my big thing. I've been working with the dev team to play Remnant and play test 2
I
for
overheard
years.
that and I seen that, and kudos to you. And
It's
I
been
guess
fun.
we're encroaching on a DLC that's based off of a modding community that, while maybe you're not directly responsible for the mods, you are essentially the tester and or the
Yeah,
guinea pig here, right?
I'm a guinea pig basically.
Okay.
So
So
yeah, because I'm really big into the hell
you're a
mod community.
strong guinea pig.
Yeah, so like I'm really big into Remnant. I've been since the game came out. It's exactly what I want. It's a Souls game with guns. That's me. Remnant 2 is huge. It's amazing. I love it. It's everything Remnant 1 had to offer and more. And it would have been my game of the year pick until Baldur's Gate 3 came out, and I was like, that's not fair.
Okay. Until you could like romance and get it on with like
Nah, there's none of that
no?
unfortunately.
Okay.
So I automatically lose.
All right. All right. I mean, I feel like let's revisit Remnant 2. I think that there's a lot there to unpack. I
Yeah,
think that there's also
I got a
like
lot to talk about Remnant 2. That's for
gaming
sure.
community, modding community, contributions, consumer to tester, to all this. I've got a buddy of mine that I think would be a good insight that I think we could talk to at some point
Okay, yeah, that'd be awesome.
about games. Um, you're like we haven't written down notes and we're already kind of pre-discussed some of this.
I know,
Um,
right?
yeah, I know. Surprise, organic. Mortal Kombat 1. What do you think about the reset now that we're in like the Liu Kang dimension
I
of
don't
God?
I
You
don't
care?
particularly care about it. So the thing about Mortal Kombat is like Mortal Kombat got like a really big spike when 10 came out because it was like the first like new like
Mhm.
current gen Mortal Kombat. And then 11 came out and 11 looked and played exactly like 10 did. And then 1 came out and 1 looks and plays basically like the previous games did, but now you have like your tag team system that we've seen in plenty of
You
other
want my
fighting games.
controversial take? I
Go
think
for it.
Mortal Kombat is a Facebook game. And I say that because I don't know if you've been on Facebook, but like there's constantly video game feed of like the entirety of the story of Mortal Kombat.
Oh,
So pretty
really?
much like all Mortal Kombat players, or yeah, they're relegated to Facebook.
I
So that's
guess because I don't
what it's
I
been
don't see
there.
very much people talking
No,
about it anywhere really.
no. Okay, Mortal Kombat's becoming like the bastard child of gaming, in my opinion. Um, it is what it is. I think what is that? I put down Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot camp. Are you ever an Advance Wars guy? A
I
GBA?
was playing Advanced Wars way back in the day. I didn't know they were doing a reboot. Are there when's that come?
Advance Wars 1 and 2 on the
Googling
Switch.
this.
Re dash boot camp is Advance Wars 1 and 2 on the Switch
Okay.
with updated graphics. So I guess it does count as a remaster, but it's got the re-dash boot, so I guess they're constituting as a reboot. I don't know. Pick or choose.
Didn't
Um,
I thought it wasn't this or one other Advanced Wars game that got like delayed, or maybe it was Metal Slug just because of the war in
Metal
Ukraine
Slug.
and stuff.
Metal Slug.
Metal Slug. Okay.
Pretty sure Metal Slug.
So
So
so Advanced Wars is
like,
that out now or?
it's been out. This is a 2023 title. It came out like the beginning of the year.
Oh shit! How did I not see this?
That would be fun to replay. One, that could be potentially fun to play against each other for just a round or two, just to dick around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I was really
Um,
big into Advance Wars as a kid. I loved
I
the first two
loved
Advance
that
Wars.
series as a kid.
Yeah.
So it's not like I was ever like in the chess club or anything like that. You know, wasn't what you would classify as like classic nerd or anything. But of our generation rather. But this game for me was like my delving into I like the idea of me versus other things, me versus other people.
Gotcha.
And and then obviously took that and evolved it in a horrible way for other games. I like hunting of people.
I think that started for
In-game.
me with Pokemon. I was
Yeah,
always trying to be
really?
the best Pokemon person at school.
Wow. All right. So you're Ash, who's been 12 for 2 decades.
I feel like it.
Okay, I dig it. Yeah, I feel the same. I'm like still 26. I got Street Fighter 6. Don't care.
I'm so here's the thing. I'm not a big fighting game player, but
I saw your tweet. You mentioned Street Fighter 5.
yeah, well, yeah. Capcom's got a big hate out from modding community right now, which is super funny.
They've always, and that's
Well, I know, but they put out like a big like official video of all the stuff that they hate. Apparently, have you seen it? Of like how much their like resources they have to dedicate to like tech support for people who play with mods and other
what
shit.
people have done. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that could easily be not only a Monster Hunter pod, but also just a Capcom
I do want to talk
pod.
about it a lot. It is something I really want to talk about because it's
Yeah.
a very interesting video on how Capcom as a company perceives the fan base.
So they do a lot of good by us, the consumer, user, player, etc. But at the same time, they've also have like this like legacy Japanese game dev mentality where it's like, no, no influence, no
Right.
opinion.
You
No,
can't
so
change our
they're
stuff.
not
It's
they're
ours.
not
It's
yeah, they're not quite Nintendo where they're gonna like copy strike, every or copyright strike everything that's, if you put out something an opinion on Nintendo, they're gonna come after you.
right.
So they're not that bad, but they are a different degree of Japanese. Why get current,
Pretty
accept the
much.
new times.
Yeah.
So they're still doing stuff that's strange for sure.
Right. But I was gonna
Um,
say about Street Fighter 6 though. It's like I'm not into fighting games, but I do appreciate the fighting game community, and I do like watching fighting game tournaments because I do like I envy the skill that goes into playing fighting games
right.
competitively because I
They
don't have that.
they have a skill set that will never possess, and
Right.
that's definitely a skill set that is more attributed to age and youth than just the generalistic shit we're talking about. So like for sure, like older players in that, I don't know, are they as good? Or
I think Daigo and Justin Wrong and who else is playing? I can't remember a lot of people's names.
is it a young man's game, or is that a
No, a lot of the old guard are still playing Street Fighter 6 and are still
so so,
competitive.
so
Like,
the old guard are still kind of keeping it in check?
yeah, which is honestly, it's pretty cool
Kudos
to
to
see.
them. All right,
Um,
yeah,
but
destroy
so
their
like I
fucking
don't care
Gen
about
Zers.
Street Fighter, but I like Street Fighter 6. I like watching it. It's very stylish and flashy, and
Well, the
it's
last time I was involved in Street Fighter was with the goldfish that were moving on the screen and controlling fighters, and there was like a tournament on Twitch.
it's Twitch play Street Fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, but with like goldfish, so like when they
Yeah,
moved to different parts of the aquarium, like they were fighting. That was I think the last time it was like a big show off between like Goldie and like this white goldfish with like a black stripe, and I was like,
that's
fucking kill
good.
him. Yeah. That's forever ago. So that's Street Fighter. I got Lords of the Fallen with
Uh,
an extra L in there, jam
Lords of the
packed. Fall
Fallen.
Fallen.
I just finished playing that. I liked it more than Liza P. Really good Souls-like
Was it
game.
better than the first go at Lords of the
Oh, it's
Fallen?
100. It's like 10 times better.
Is it
I
night
don't
and day
even want to
difference?
attribute it to the first game because it's changed developer hands like 3 times already, and
Okay.
it's entire like other than like the background lore of the game, it's entirely different. So I don't even know why they called it Lords of the Fallen. They could have called it fucking Dark Souls 4 and it would have been fine. Like it's a really good Dark Souls game. Like it plays exactly what I expected from Dark Souls 4. Everything about it is great. It plays awesome. The combat's fluid. It's just too easy. They gave players way too many
Visually,
iframes.
it looks appealing. Time wise, I don't think I have the time to invest in it.
Yeah, it's about
Sorry now.
35 hours for a playthrough, but it's good. It has problems, but it's good. I definitely recommend people pick it up.
Okay. I got Spider-Man 2,
Spider-Man.
or
Have you been playing
as we in
Spider-Man?
the West Coast
I,
sometimes say Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I don't have a
Spider-Man.
console to play it, but the
I got a
Spider-Man genre has
PS5,
never been
and it's
for
great for
me.
collecting dust. And I even got a separate skin that's all black, and that's great for collecting even more dust. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like black cars in the sun. They're good
Good old
for absorbing
magnets.
heat. Yeah, power.
So you haven't played
Uh,
Spider-Man?
I haven't touched a Spider-Man game since like PS3 or PS2. I don't know. I almost feel like that's an age thing, but it's not even a generational thing. It's an age thing. Like when you're younger, like Spider-Man's fun as fuck, but like as an adult, I just don't know if I have the
I I just never
A
liked Spider-Man.
desire to play Spider-Man.
Yeah. I've just never been a Spider-Man guy, so I just haven't cared for it.
I'm a huge
Uh,
Spider-Man guy. I fucking love Spider-Man. It's probably one of my favorite my favorite comic book characters. Because he's Peter Parker is best identified with probably our age range
Fair enough.
and or our problems in life. The most humanized superhero that there is, and spends more time as Peter Parker than he does as a superhero, which is not necessarily relatable,
True, true.
and deals with different aspects of life that I don't know, just repeating. Fuck it. Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Not
That
not a
is
big Assassin's
that
Creed
is
fan.
that to me is a reboot of the series. So I think they got so far down the hole that they had to start over somewhere, and I think Mirage is the start of that. So I almost think that
That's
I view Mirage as the continuity of Assassin's Creed 1 and or 2 theming, where I think what 2 was with Ezio or
yeah.
Enzo, and 1 was Altair, and 1 is in the Middle East, and 2 is obviously supposed to be ancient Italiana, Rome, or it wasn't Paris, right? It was just
I,
Rome. Was it just Roman?
yeah, there's just Italy. Just
Okay. So to me, this is like a return to form, and we're not exploring
well,
new ground here. We're
and
just
I'm
telling a
glad they
different
did it
story, and
because
that
I was say the last couple fucking Assassin's Creeds have just gone off the rails. It's not even fucking Assassin's Creed
so
anymore. It's just
as,
Ubisoft Open World
yeah,
Simulator.
Assassin's Creed lost me in the Y. It wasn't Y2K nonsense, was it? It was the was it Y2K?
Assassin's Creed wasn't out during Y2K.
No, so like the Desmond arc, the Apocalypse 2022 or 2002 or 2020 what 2002, right? Remember we had
Mm.
like the whole doomsday bullshit in our
Oh, the
generation?
like the Rapture shit. That was like
Yeah. 2002?
2011.
2011?
Yeah, I think that was 11 because
I
2000
don't
was
think
the Y2K shit, but I think 11 was the Rapture.
okay. So at some point in the I think it was the Rapture stuff. So at some point in Assassin's Creed, they basically decided that like, hey, we're gonna tell a storyline of a character that's existing in the modern time world that's going through animus, that's going back in time, reliving these memories of his ancestors or his bloodline or whatever the fuck, which is a combination of the two. And it's all about this eat an apple and or technology forward, and then it's aliens, but it's also the end of the world. And they try to like amalgamate real life shit into a game at the same time. And
Hmm.
I and I think I've made this point in previous back when I was a streamer. I hate the concept that Corey May, who's the writer and the conceptual mind behind Desmond's storyline, I think that Corey May should be like dragged out into the streets and I don't know, beaten with like fruits and vegetables or something. Just saying.
Put on
He
one of
could,
those like
yeah,
the
he can live.
village idiot ballards. Like
Yeah,
you're just
he can live. I'm not saying like I'm not calling for blood. But I am. Um, I just thought it was just a bad idea. It was bad to implement that into gaming. It definitely dates gaming for sure, and then also it just like tarnished a series that had a good thing going for it. Like just make it about these past ancestors as opposed to trying to like force feed us a narrative of like you're special, you're an assassin in the present, and these are your ancestors and it's aliens. Um, I know I'm horribly butchering and simplifying that for sure. I already know. I don't care. Metroid Prime Remaster. I saw you playing that, and I've been meaning to get to that because to me
dude.
that
I
was a
cannot.
GameCube gem that very few GameCube games accomplished. That was a
It's
reinvention of Metroid.
here's a hot take. I think Metroid Prime is better than Super Metroid. Like I
Well,
know a lot
duh.
of people love Super
Well,
Metroid and
but
Metroid
those,
Fusion.
but that's a different. Those are whole different games. So
They are,
like,
but the thing, but they are. They 100% are. But people like attribute like, oh, it's the Metroid franchise. This game's better than this game, kind of thing. Not like, oh, it's just a 2D Metroidvania platformer. Where this is like a first person kind of like platformer exploration kind of thing. But the thing that I really
that's
appreciate
like
about
wolves to dogs, bro. In this situation, I
it
think
is,
that like
but that's what
Metroid
people
Prime is
say
the
though.
wolf.
But it's like so here the thing about Metroid Prime though is this is one of the rare cases where they've taken an established franchise up until Prime. Like they've had like what 4, 5, 6 Metroid games at that point, and they took a traditionally 2D platformer game and put it into a three-dimensional space, first person, changed up the entire game and everything that defined it.
Mhm.
Kind of like a Mario jumping from like a 2D game to the 3D game.
Prime
Totally
was the
different.
reboot of the IP. and
It
I think
was
that it was
such
in
a
the
good
best
job.
best direction that they'd ever done.
And it was,
Every
yeah,
and then
it's so
it
good.
gradually fell off. So like by the time you hit Echoes, you didn't really care. Um, I think
And see,
here's my
I don't like that because Echoes was my favorite. I like Metroid Prime 2 the
okay.
best.
Well,
And then 3 was whatever. I didn't care about 3.
we each have our stance here. We'll revisit this. Um,
But the
that'll be
remaster's good.
that'll be a running joke. It's just we'll revisit this.
The best thing about the remaster though is that they actually implemented dual stick controls
Yeah.
for the first time, so it actually controls really well.
So Fusion to me was the pinnacle comparatively, as like Monster Hunter 3U is to land combat. So Fusion was the pinnacle
Of like
of
2D Metroid.
2D platforming Metroid.
I'd say that's
And
true.
then
I just
and
replayed
then
Fusion.
Prime was the golden standard of 3D actualized environment gameplay FPS Metroid going forward.
That's fair.
They really haven't changed the formula since then. And even though Prime, I think, in my opinion, has a very slow start to kind of feed you the new concepts of scanning and what to look for. It's like you have this in game development, you have to essentially teach the concept and then allow the player to learn. And then once the player learns, that's essentially the routine.
Yeah.
And I think that Prime established that. 2 tried to teach some new stuff, but didn't really embrace the spirit of it. And for me, 3 was just like, well, we're going to give you light and dark and different dimensions, which I think was new at the time as far as the concept, right? So like, isn't there like
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I don't feel like that there had been a whole lot of 3D games that had captured that lesson essentially for gaming. Like, you do it here and then you have to do it on the opposite side. It was basically the upside down Stranger Things of gaming at the time. So yeah, I mean, we could probably talk about Metroid Prime. I want to do pods where we do drafts and we put games together and we kind of like rate them, 1 through 10 instead of this A through S shit.
Okay.
Where instead of memeage, we have like discussion and topics and
yeah, that'll go on forever.
Yeah, that'll break down a lot. I think the last game that I just chipped in here last second was Return to Moria, which is the Lord of the Rings game.
Right, it's a survival game that's
Yeah.
dwarven survival.
So it's a procedurally generated game. I don't have it, don't own it, want to purchase it.
It just came out, didn't it?
Want to drag other people into it. I think within the last month and a half. So at the
I think
end
it's
of last month,
the last week even.
yeah. So maybe. I've been watching a lot of footage on it. I am a Tolkien guy. I grew up with the books. I grew up with the cartoons. I grew up with the movies. And then obviously Peter Jackson, which is newer. Those were movies. And I love those. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm a lore guy, and there's certain things with lore that I like more than others, and that's one of them.
It's got pretty good reviews, but yeah, it came out literally on the 24th, so it's been out for a few days.
My understanding is the end game loop is repetitive, which what isn't now, and also
like that doesn't bother me at all. To be honest.
It's like it's like those bad takes on games where like it's hard and it doesn't need to be this hard. So that's what I seem to be seeing quite a bit of. I would like to experience that for myself and formulate my own opinion. It does seem like the combat's pretty low key, not too crazy. It reminds me of a Necropolis. I don't know if you ever played that on PC, where it was more about the art style, but it was a endless dungeon crawler where you just kept going deeper and deeper.
Oh no, I didn't play that.
Yeah,
no.
That was a pretty fun game. That was mostly a 3D experience with some procedurally generated, but it was also like simple polygons. Whereas in this is a little bit more fleshed out because it's an IP that's based off of a series. It has,
gotcha.
A canon expectation to uphold.
But it's on Epic Games Store, not Steam. That's a big shot in the foot.
Steam. It is, and that's honestly where I'm losing people. And I got a bro recently to kind of like be like, yeah, dude, that looks shit. That looks good. So I think we're gonna delve into the mines of Moria and dig too greedily and too deep.
Okay, yeah, keep me posted on that. It seems cool.
Yeah, so I don't know. That could be interesting. And then I think topics we'll have to touch up on in a Monster Hunter pod. You put down Monster Hunter Sunbreak is over. What are our thoughts? Bro, we could talk about Monster Hunter for like pods and pods and pods. And I think the idea is to theme things. Or kind of have like, this is a podcast about Monster Hunter. And like if people are interested, they'll obviously listen, and then we'll talk about a different game, and then people will be like, fuck this, and then leave. Like most Monster Hunter streams or communal spaces, The second that you branch into creativity and enjoyment for yourself, you lose.
Yeah, you lose the whole audience. Weird.
You lose so much interest and you lose so much respect,
Yeah.
and then you have to like go back with your head down and be like, all right, I'll sleep with
I'll
the
go back to Monster Hunter.
again.
Yeah, every fucking Monster Hunter
I'll
like
castrate myself for
streamer.
Monster Hunter again. We all know that pain. I think that's like our one communal experience that we like can bond over. And then the second that we're like, what do you think about this game? It's like straight enemies again. So
It's,
it's like, oh, you're in what team? Gross, disgusting.
so if you talk about For You's not your favorite Monster Hunter game, you're automatically like worst person on the planet.
Guild Marm all the way, bro.
I know, right?
Guild, yeah.
Always got to be a doodle.
Into the bestiality and the slime. Mm. Not good. Like
Mm.
uh, I wish I had the money to give you people help, but I don't. Oh boy. Closing thoughts. We got prompt
Closing
questions,
thoughts.
engagements. Yeah. Fuck it.
We got a lot. We got a lot of ideas. Is what we're like. We got a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that we got to talk about. Obviously, this is not going to be the end. We've like went on to tangents for every single topic that we talked about because there's a lot to talk about.
We'll lock it in at some point. Learn how to work off
we'll
each other.
condense stuff, and after we realize how much that we're just gonna ramble.
Well, we need to get like an editing producer. We need what was I telling you? A Jamie, basically. We need a Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need somebody to just chip in and be like, yeah, and then like Google shit for us, basically. So
yeah, that'd be helpful.
You want to be that person?
Just screen prompt stuff we're talking about. Yeah,
exactly.
So, okay, brother. Well, it's good talking to you. It's a good place to call it for now. I'm gonna have to edit this thing down, and yeah, we'll get our thoughts together more concise for the next one, then, man.
Yeah, I need to get you something for that wall. You need something there.
I have stuff. I just moved a little while ago, and I got things I need to hang up still. I'm just lazy.
Yeah.
I got a picture just on the floor behind me, so yeah. I'll get around to it.
Always sounded like a good idea is to have like a painted like the old English dukes and nobility, just like a real pompous. But like with I don't know. I was
do like your mom's house podcast, where you have like all these portraits of like random fucking people behind me.
Not random people, but yourself, like in like that like time.
So I actually we had one of those pictures done for one of my sister's pets. They came out great. Like we had like our cat face on it and stuff. Yeah, we could do that for like all the podcast guests and just have everyone on the wall.
It was before my time, but I've talked to the girlfriend about it, about like how those 80s pictures where they got the weird sort of not quite astronomy backgrounds, but it's a mix of colors, usually purples, blues, maybe a little bit of reds. And they got people like posing, and then they got like the 3/4 turn.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
Like I want to do that with like our cats and dogs, where we just like have different iterations of them. But
gotcha. That'd be fun.
I know that required too much effort to expel. But anyways, what do we want to talk about next time, or what do we want to do?
I think
do we really want to pick it now, or do we like to decide?
We can pick it now to give like a preview. I think before we start diving into other games, we got to hash out all of our current thoughts on current Monster Hunter, because that's obviously I know that's kind of what we're known for in our sphere. But before Monster Hunter 6 gets announced, because now everyone's like it's gonna come out next March or something.
You're like the negative speedrunner, and I'm like the self-loathing negative former has been. I don't know how many adjectives can I attach to myself.
Whatever you want, man. Put all of them on. Yeah.
The king, the undefeated.
But like, there's so much stuff that we have to go through before we get official Monster Hunter 6 announcements. Then we can go back again when Monster Hunter 6 is announced and be like, I was fucking right.
Yeah, I don't know. We got it. I mean, I think one of the big topics that you put in here, like it was a small fucking remark, was wire bugs. I've got so much hate for Clutch Claw, Iceborne, and so many thoughts. Why? Like, how do we go backwards at this point? Like, Capcom has fucked us into a hole, and then they're just gonna keep fucking us in that hole, because how do you keep combat pacing and combat interest without having a gimmick that forces us to be able to
To interact with
fling
it.
Spider-Man the fucking map. Because
Yeah.
if people have to go back to pre fourth verticality, then there's, I don't know, people are gonna hate the game. It's just
Yeah,
gonna
there's a
tank.
lot to talk about as far as combat and world building mechanics and shit that's gonna have to go into everything. I don't know. There's so much
Mm.
to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about
So
it
yeah, we'll do
next
Monster
time.
Hunter next. We didn't do Monster Hunter much. We rarely glossed over it this time, but we'll do it next time.
We
And
go on
we'll
like 20-minute tangents. We're like, we barely even talked about it. It's not
well,
even
20
not
minutes
even.
tangents over 3 hours is not a lot.
Yeah, true, true.
So
Yeah,
okay, so
sarcasm.
we'll do that for next time. So
All right.
all right, good talking to you, sir. I'll see you next time. Peace,
Okay, bye.
peoples. Have funs. Bye bye.
What do you say? See you in those digital streets.